Part 39. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 381. Even in this life, Li Yuan has spent tens of thousands of dollars on Tong Sui. It's even now. As an explanation to the previous life, this matter has completely changed. He wasn't lying. The current Tong Sui was worthless. She estimated that she had tried to hug other people's thighs in the past few years, but unfortunately, she probably had never played with others. If he wanted to hug Gu Dongshen's thigh now, Gu Dongshen would definitely not be interested. Women are not important in Gu Dongshen's eyes, otherwise he would not leave the child's mother in the villa while eating. After he got home, he called Chenji. "Come back tomorrow, I will arrange work for you at Qingtian Group." In the past, he didn't let people around him participate because he didn't want those people to affect his decision-making. But now, no more. The structure of Qingtian Group has been very complete, and the layout has begun to take shape. He needs more trustworthy people to help him handle the next work. Just like Zhou Ranran said, if he retires 2 years early, he can live a few more years. However, Chenji's ability is not that strong and she needs to be paired with someone else. Anna Shen fits the bill very well. The only things in his hands are Qingtian Group, Nanshan Group, and Lianhua Trust. Althide Bank is based on Lianhua Trust, with brokerage financial business, investment business, and expansion business, and belongs to Qingtian Group. The real estate services industry belongs to Nanshan Group. In terms of complexity, it must be Qingtian Group, and in terms of importance, all three are indispensable. However, there are many people working behind Nanshan Group, and Lotus Trust is mainly engaged in finance, so it does not need too many people. Only Qingtian Group currently only has Yu and Song Jiajia, which is still relatively small. The next day, Li Wanhe and Zhou Wan were waiting at the entrance of the village for Chenji to bring their children back. Cao Yuan naturally followed with an excuse, nominally being Chenji's nanny. Only Chenji has a villa here, but Cao Yuan does not. Li Yuan didn't come out. After his parents made arrangements for Chenji, he went over and took a look. "It's true that I haven't seen my daughter for a long time. I have only been able to see photos for more than a year." After chatting with Chenji, I asked her to be responsible for foreign investment business after the year, such as Ningco, Limited, MyHoyo, etc. She will be familiar with the environment for a year for the time being, and other work will be arranged when Chen Dai is 3 years old. 2 days later, Li Yuan brought some things, and Zhang Yuling also came back, taking his 2 children with him to visit Gu Dongshen's house. Zhang Yuling's impression of Gu Dongshen has always been about the rumor he spread. Although they have met several times over the years, they have only rarely chatted. Until now, she had no idea what Gu Dongshen was doing. "I just feel that this guy is not like a normal person and is even more outrageous than Li Yuan. For example, Li Yuan at least didn't dare to bring other women back in front of her, but Gu Dongshen could talk to 2 girlfriends openly, and they both gave birth to his children. She was just a foil today, taking her own children to get to know Gu Dongshen's children. Li Yuan built the structure of the village, and she must have the obligation to maintain the relationship." After eating and chatting, Li Yuan went to the study with Gu Dongshen. The price of lithium carbonate has dropped, reaching a maximum of nearly 500,000 per ton. Now it is only about 380,000 per ton. By the end of the year, it will most likely drop to 270,000 per ton. "According to your request, I didn't get much share this year. I basically arranged for people to mine it myself. Whether it's gold or lithium carbonate, my job has become a lot easier. Shen Tianfu has started to contact people recently." "Who do you want to contact?" "He thinks Suriname is good. There are more Chinese people, a small overall population, rich fishery resources, and he has contacted people related to finance. Li Yuan nodded, and there was no problem with Shen Tianfu's choice. You must first establish your footing so that you can do things later. In the cycle of US dollar interest rate hikes, small countries will have a very difficult time. As long as they have money, they will have no problem staying on their feet. As for everything else, it depends on how capable Shen Tianfu is. In the future, whether his and Shen Anna's child will be a little prince from South America or a Chinese wage earner, it all depends on what Shen Tianfu can do. Li Yuan reminded the club champion, and Shen Tianfu must have understood it, but he still chose Suriname in the end, which shows that he already has the skills. Gu Dongsheng continued, he first wants to open a company. The finances there have been very poor in the past 2 years. Their annual GDP is only more than 3 billion US dollars, and the infrastructure is very poor. He wants to win over people in the name of infrastructure construction. A group of interest groups came out. The place was very poor, there were no particularly valuable minerals, and the area was not large. There was very little capital willing to target them. So those people who wanted to make money had no chance to make money. The current situation is not good, and many people are already timid. Li Yuan asked, what about you? Do you have any ideas? Gu Dongsheng, I don't have much idea. I will do some small things in the dark for the time being and win over some minor characters. If he succeeds, I will be the icing on the cake. If he fails, I will take over. Li Yuan, you have never thought about returning to China for development? We still have a few positions in Qingtian Group. Gu Dongsheng had just stated the seriousness of the matter. Once something happened to Shen Tianfu, it would be basically impossible to survive. And he could only risk his life if he tried to do it. Any change of power will be accompanied by blood. Either it belongs to the enemy, or it belongs to oneself. Gu Dongsheng waved his hand, it's boring. People like me have a very limited ceiling in China. Besides, my advantage is not management ability. When you need to do something, just call me back. Then have you gone to see Wen Suiwai? Wen Suiwai is Anna Shen's stepmother, although Anna Shen has not admitted it so far. Not yet, but Shen Tianfu asked me to bring some money to her mother and son. Li Yuan, then when you go out next year, take Wen Suiwai with you. Gu Dongsheng said in surprise, aren't you afraid that the chips in your hand are worthless? If he and Wen Suiwai have another child, then Shen Luo's importance will be reduced. Li Yuan said with a smile, if he wanted it, wouldn't there be a woman out there? Either he has no ability to continue having children, or Shen Luo's importance has been reduced, and Wen Suiwai is nothing. Li Yuan also has another purpose, which is to completely lock Shen Tianfu down. Shen Luo is now 10 years old and has a very deep relationship with his mother. When Wen Suiwai went there, she would definitely think about her son every day. If Shen Tianfu dares to be impulsive and doesn't even care about his own woman's life, Shen Luo will definitely be hated for the rest of his life. Isn't Shen Tianfu doing it for the descendants of the Shen family? What's the point of trying hard if his only son hates him? So, after Wen Suiwai goes, he must take good care of her and not mess around. Makes sense. Gu Dongsheng knew very well Shen Tianfu's current situation. Although I have some money in hand, it's not much. His commission was twice that of Shen Tianfu, which was only 2 billion. Shen Tianfu had more than 1 billion in his hands. That's just over $100 million. It's definitely fine for normal life, but if you want to do big things, it's still far from enough. Now Shen Tianfu is going all out, just to give Li Yuan a certificate and let Li Yuan see that he is still valuable. Perhaps Shen Tianfu 3 years ago still wanted to make a fortune from Li Yuan and run away. But now, he has no confidence anymore. In the past few years, Li Yuan had done several things in an understatement, which were enough to scare him. He easily contacted Polly and brought them a bunch of weapons. He has gone head-on with Wall Street several times, and now his net worth is unbelievably scary. Being able to use a chess piece like Lu Mubai speaks for itself. Li Yuan didn't want Gu Dongsheng to feel how unkind he was, so he calmed down the atmosphere and said, "Actually, there is another factor. I don't want my father-in-law to live too lonely. After all, I haven't seen my wife in several years. When the time comes, tell Shen Tianfu directly that nothing will happen to Shen Luo as long as I take care of him. I will not brainwash Shen Luo. Shen Luo at this age is not so easily deceived. No matter how far he goes in the future, I can exchange my domestic foundation with him one by one without losing money to him. Of course, it will definitely be the same with you. One-to-one replacement. You are so willing. It is Li Yuan who is providing money, ideas, and connections. They are more like wage earners. If they can be replaced at will, how can the boss make money? After thinking about it, it seems that few of the projects Li Yuan is currently working on are making money, and they are all subsidizing the money. Haha, I only make money within my knowledge. Just like the previous products, I started betting on them a few years ago. Even if I replace them in the future, the cost I should deduct will still be deducted, and I will not take advantage of you. Gu Dongsheng, then I want to make more money. Maybe after you come down, I can stay as the world's richest man. Haha, there are many opportunities. The world's richest man is actually just a name. That money may not all be real, and even if it is real, it is not that great for the entire world. Gu Dongsheng wants to be the richest man in the world. Even if he follows the current model, in 10 or 20 years, if Li Yuan finds an opportunity to give him leverage, the chance will be very high. Just like the chairman of Nongfu Sanquan, before it went public, his net worth was in the hundreds. Once it went public, his net worth immediately became number one. December 13th is here. It was supposed to be a lively day, but instead the streets were deserted. I tried my best to keep everyone from going out, but some people took advantage of it. Now everyone is allowed to go out as much as they want, but no one dares to come out. This effect is very similar to the financial market. If you want to make money in the financial market, if you can trade against human nature, you will have a great chance of making money. Unless the entire market is quantified, there will be no human intervention. The next day, Li Yuan received a call from Guo Meng. Her voice was a little hoarse. Yang, I feel so uncomfortable, I feel like my throat is swallowing a razor blade. Have you taken your medicine? I ate, but it still didn't relieve my pain, so I ran to the hospital. Very serious. Generally speaking, there is no need to go to the hospital, because even if you go, it will be useless. Unless it is a particularly serious situation, there are more medical equipment there, which can alleviate some symptoms and buy some time for immunity. Well, it's very serious. I was afraid that the hospital in Zhangzhou wouldn't work, so I came to the hospital near your home. You told them that they must cure me. I'm not married yet, and I don't want to die yet. Li Yuan. Judging from Guo Meng's tone, it didn't sound like he was seriously ill at all. It was also inexplicably related to life and death. I'll call later to check on the situation. But I feel a little difficult to breathe. Am I going to die soon? I still have a lot of work to do. I haven't written a year-end summary to you yet, can you come to the hospital? I want to say a few last words to you. I don't want to get infected just yet. Then I'll tell you when I get better, okay? Okay. After hanging up the phone, Li Yuan called the hospital and asked about Guo Meng's situation. The symptoms were indeed not mild. I had a high fever when I was sent here, and I just woke up a little bit. But in the whole group, it is not particularly rare. There are too many people with high fever, and they are simply unable to say their last words. Although I say I don't want to be infected, I will have to face that day sooner or later, and it will be difficult for the village to be immune. After all, in the next few months, We will face these situations all the time. We can't stop eating because of choking. We only need to focus on Chin Si's place. So he said hello to his family, put on a mask, and went to the hospital. The hospital has been very crowded recently, and they are all in the respiratory department. Because it is a private hospital, Li Yuan can do whatever he wants with his privileges. There are dedicated floors and dedicated teams, and naturally there will be dedicated elevators. There are 2 elevators, and ordinary people can't get in at all. Guo Meng is in a separate nursing ward, and there are no outsiders on the entire floor. After all, Li Yuan himself doesn't get sick every day, so the medical team needs to serve the people around him. Li Yuan made a surprise attack. When he arrived, Guo Meng was lying on the hospital bed. He was obviously in good condition when he made the call, but within half an hour, he was totally stunned, which meant that the news must have been leaked. Who leaked it? When he came to the bedside, Guo Meng slowly opened his eyes and said in a weak tone, "Boss, you are here." "Well, here we come." After saying that, he brought a chair and sat down. Guo Meng's eyes were filled with tears, and he seemed aggrieved. "I may not be able to continue working at Qingtian Capital in the future." Li Yuan comforted him, "Don't think so much. I've asked the doctor and he will recover in 2 days. But I'm really desperate. I've never been so helpless. I don't even dare to tell my family. I'm afraid that my parents will be sad. They gave birth to me for 30 years, and I haven't been able to repay them, and I won't have the chance to give back to them in the future. I feel guilty that they are taking care of themselves in old age. I am still their only child. If I were to die, I don't know how lonely they would be in the future." The more Guo Meng said, the more tears he shed. "The greatest luck in my life is to meet a boss like you, but the greatest misfortune is to meet a boss like you. I really don't want to die. I haven't even had a serious relationship yet." Li Yuan suddenly realized that Guo Meng didn't seem to be faking it. End of chapter. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 382. Li Yuan, I am 31 years old. After Guo Meng said this very weakly, he closed his eyes. Since joining Qingtian Capital, her life has begun to change. From the beginning, the annual income was 2 to 3 million, to the annual income of 20 to 30 million, and then to the annual income of 50 to 60 million. From an identity that everyone despises, to a being that others look up to. Of course, she focused all her attention on work and Li Yuan. If she hadn't turned 30 last year and someone was chasing her specifically, she wouldn't have thought about getting married. I just didn't expect that the conspiracy behind my compromise with reality would become unbearable. Last night, she felt that she was so close to death. After waking up, she lost her sense of taste, which made her even more panicked. She is a timid person, so timid that she only dares to think secretly to herself and does not dare to express it at all. She was so timid that in the uncertain future, her heart was completely occupied by panic. When she was on the phone, she still pretended to be brave, but after Li Yuan came, she no longer wanted to pretend. In fact, after the last time Li Yuan shot her in the ear, she would have symptoms of tinnitus from time to time, and it still existed in the past year and a half. She had thought up a reason for herself, and she should let Li Yuan take responsibility. Li Yuan saw that Guo Meng seemed very tired, so he didn't say anything. After waiting for a while, he felt that Guo Meng fell asleep, so he got up and talked to someone. "Doctor, is Guo Meng's situation serious?" "Mr. Li, don't worry too much. This symptom is normal, but there is currently no suitable treatment, and some of the equipment in the hospital cannot be used." "Then why is Guo Meng so excited?" "This, may be because her recent intermittent tinnitus has been severe, coupled with her loss of taste. For ordinary people, it will be difficult to accept it for a while. Intermittent tinnitus. Yes, her eardrum has been permanently damaged. We don't know the cause at the moment. We are going to wait for her condition to get better before conducting a comprehensive examination. Well, that's troublesome. Li Yuan could guess the cause of the disease because they were very close at the time. It's less than 10 centimeters. The known diseases are not that terrible, and people are all empiricists. But for Guo Meng, everything is unknown. She had tinnitus. She went to Zhangzhou to check it several times, but they all said that there was nothing that could be done for the time being. At the age of 31, tinnitus was a blow to her, and it was compounded by Xinguan. Li Yuan always felt sorry for Guo Meng about that incident. She didn't know anything, and she was targeted just because she worked at Qingtian Capital and because she might be the only breakthrough. Zhang Yuling is simply back, and there is no shortage of people at home. Moreover, because he is away from home most of the time, Zhang Yuling is now much more patient with his children. Li Yuan decided to stay with Guo Meng in the hospital for a while. After calling her family to tell her about the situation, Zhou Wan also said she wanted to come over, but was stopped by Li Yuan. The later the sun rises, the better. If you can persist for a few months, maybe nothing will happen. Guo Meng woke up at dinner time. When Guo Meng woke up, she seemed confused. It took her a long time to react when Li Yuan talked to her. After reacting, he showed his trademark smile. Li Yuan, are you hungry? Guo Meng, I'm much better. I was sorry before. Maybe I was too timid. Li Yuan, would you like to drink some water? I see you are sweating a lot. Guo Meng, I know you care about your employees. I am really happy to have a boss like you. Li Yuan. Guo Meng couldn't hear what he was saying and kept guessing. Always keep an eye on his mouth and keep a relaxed smile. Li Yuan poured a glass of warm water and lowered it. Guo Meng immediately took it and said, "Thank you. Rest is good for fever. The body is not tossing around, and the brain can focus all its energy on arranging troops. Otherwise, the immunity is fighting against the virus, and suddenly the host says it wants to give the immunity some tests. Who would have a better time with such a host? Don't bother with it. Cool down when it's time to cool down, lest your brain thinks the host is dying. Anyway, colds and fevers are incurable diseases. Instead of trusting any medicine on the market, it is better to trust your own immunity." When Guo Meng drank water, he found Li Yuan sitting on the edge of the hospital bed and taking off his mask. After that, Li Yuan stared into her eyes. She took a sip of water but hadn't swallowed it yet. "Is there something on my face?" she asked quietly. In fact, after she couldn't hear the outside world, she couldn't control the volume of her voice, so she relied on her feelings. "Mr. Guo." She guessed this through her mouth shape, because it is relatively short and is also a commonly used identity word. If Li Yuan said a few more words, she wouldn't be able to guess them. "It's okay, I'll go out and bring our dinner in." Before Guo Meng had time to reply, he saw Li Yuan going out. What did Li Yuan say just now? She knew what was happening to her, which was that after the eardrum was damaged, sometimes sound could not be transmitted to the neurons in the cerebral cortex. When a normal person hears a sound, the eardrum vibrates, and then the connected neurons transmit the vibration frequency to the brain. After analysis by the brain, the person hears what others say. For a language that is completely incomprehensible, it is actually no different from watching an animal bark, but with some facial expressions and movements superimposed, and some meanings can be guessed. At this time, Guo Meng couldn't hear anything and had no professional training, so he basically relied on guesswork. She was thinking about whether she should learn to read mouth movements, because she didn't know when she would suddenly lose her hearing. It's very frustrating when you can't hear the sound. Coupled with the lack of taste, I feel like I am completely different from a human being. Taste and smell are also connected. Li Yuan brought the dinner plate in front of him. Guo Meng saw that Li Yuan seemed to have said something and quickly replied, "It looks delicious, thank you." But the next second, Li Yuan scooped up some soup with a spoon and brought it to her mouth. She realized that Li Yuan might have just asked if he wanted to feed her. She took a taste. Although she had no sense of taste, it still felt different from anything before. As Li Yuan started to feed others, she had also made mental preparations. She deserves this. Right? They all deserve it. After eating and drinking, Li Yuan wiped her lips with a tissue. She convinced herself over and over again that she deserved it. After all, I suffered so much grievance at the beginning. I stayed in the hospital for 2 months and was in pain for countless days. Isn't it right to enjoy it? Well. She stared at Li Yuan, who was so close, and their hairs were probably touching each other. The dull sense of taste seemed to be somewhat revived at this moment. Well. He was the one who beat my fiancée to death, and he should be compensated. And after such a long time, you still have to factor in interest. Li Yuan was so proud. Guo Meng's sense of taste has recovered a lot, but unfortunately he still can't hear the sound. When the doctor comes in, he can only communicate through notes. This has happened several times, sometimes it returns to normal within an hour or two, sometimes it takes a day or two. According to Guo Meng's summary, when work pressure is high, it will suddenly appear. The hospital didn't find anything out. This was obviously related to nerves, so there was really nothing we could do. I can only summarize the triggers and try to avoid them in the future. Li Yuan's symptoms were not serious, he just had a fever that lasted all night. When I woke up the next day, I was fine. There was no loss of taste or anything like that. I didn't even take antipyretics. I just feel like I have no energy all over my body after being masculine. The next day after Li Yuan recovered, Guo Meng could finally hear the news. But she didn't tell Li Yuan. Li Yuan was feeding her, and as usual, she pouted after eating. After all, eating couldn't just be eating. After Li Yuan wiped her clean, he took a bite on his plump lips. Then he quietly turned his head and complained, "I didn't even brush my teeth." As a result, Guo Meng immediately said, "I brushed my teeth." Then. In fact, Li Yuan would secretly complain like this every day just to test Guo Meng's hearing. As long as he turned around and prevented Guo Meng from seeing his mouth shape, Guo Meng wouldn't know he was speaking. Li Yuan smiled and said, "So you're fine, then I'll go home." "What are you talking about? I'm not thirsty yet." Li Yuan looked like this and whispered, "Anyway, I'll leave later." Guo Meng knew he couldn't continue acting. "Do you really want to leave?" She hated herself for being spineless. Why didn't she dare to be tougher? She told Li Yuan that if he left, she would die in front of him. "Yeah, I've been here for 4 days, and there are still a lot of things to deal with. But you don't have to worry about the company. Just rest here and recuperate. As for anything else, you can call me or send me messages at any time." Guo Meng hesitated and struggled, and finally said, "Then can you agree to my request?" "Any request?" "I'm sorry for my boyfriend. I don't have a boyfriend anymore. It's very pitiful." As she spoke, she started crying. Without tears. "We can't pay for it now." "Why?" "Because I just became masculine and am helpless." Guo Meng didn't understand it at first, but after slowly understanding the sentence, his eyes suddenly narrowed like crescent moons. She pulled Li Yuan and said, "Then you call me baby." As a result, as soon as she finished speaking, everything around her became silent. Panic appeared on her face. It's over, I can't hear you again." Li Yuan didn't really leave. After all, he wasn't sure whether he was safe. What if I infect everyone in my family after I return home? I won't be able to take care of him at all. Li Wanhee has stopped running around recently, and only walks back and forth between several houses in the village. Li Yuanyang's death has not been told to his family until now. As long as Guo Meng is too nervous, he will have short-term tinnitus. Generally, this duration will be relatively short, 1 or 2 hours. Excessive fatigue can cause tinnitus, but the duration is not necessarily certain. It may be an hour or two, or it may be a day or two. Another 4 or 5 days passed, and he was sure that his body was fine and Guo Meng had already recovered, so he was ready to leave. In the past few days, I have been looking for incentives for Guo Meng. After all, there are not many things that can make Guo Meng nervous, and he happens to be it. However, in the past few days, everything that should be found has been found, and Guo Meng has adapted to those movements, and she will no longer have sudden tinnitus. At night, as usual, Li Yuan came to the side of the hospital bed. Anyway, whenever Li Yuan comes, her shoulders become extremely slippery and her clothes fall down unsatisfactorily. With her eyes closed, she felt Li Yuan lying next to her ear and asking, "Can you hear me, baby?" She nodded. Unlike the first time, after being touched by Li Yuan, he immediately became very nervous. Nothing seemed to make her nervous anymore. "I'm going back tomorrow, so I'll pay you a boyfriend tonight." Well. Soon, Guo Meng was trembling all over and his ears were ringing again. But this time she was sure that nothing could make her nervous to this extent again. She will be nervous about the first kiss, the first intimate contact. Maybe you were nervous for the second time, after all, maybe you didn't stick out your tongue the first time. Or it was the left before the intimate contact, but it was the right this time. But the tension today will never happen again, just in one position. At 31 years old, I finally gave it away. Later than imagined, but more satisfying than imagined. The new year is approaching, and everyone who should come back has come back. When Wall Street was supposed to cash out the midterm payment, Li Yuan asked Anna Shen to contact the other party proactively. As a result, the other party simply ignored me. Li Yuan called again and asked the other party to make up the payment. So far, Wall Street has shipped 30,000 tons of lithium carbonate, mainly to Nanbang. There are still about 100,000 tons in the warehouse, and Li Yuan really hasn't sold any. If the other party fails to pay the balance, then the other party has breached the contract. Either $50 billion in liquidated damages, or the subsequent shipments have nothing to do with them. The previous down payment of us $20 billion had to be fully financed. With the depreciation of the Chinese currency, lithium carbonate that was previously worth us $70,000 is now not even worth us $50,000. Therefore, even if Li Yuan called in person, Bill still didn't answer. Li Yuan followed the rules and began to give the final notice to Wall Street. If the midterm payment was not received within 7 days, it would be considered a breach of contract and they would bear all the consequences themselves. Then, Wall Street began to spread rumors that Li Yuan had defrauded them of $20 billion, which directly escalated to the diplomatic level. The god of wealth didn't know about this at all. He immediately called Li Yuan to confirm, and then he realized how dark Li Yuan's heart was. Didn't do anything, but still defrauded people of $20 billion. How much is 30,000 tons of lithium carbonate worth? He was confused. Why did Li Yuan always seem to be stupid on Wall Street when he was competing with Wall Street? Why are they restricted everywhere when they compete with Wall Street? Trading with Li Yuan? Still playing futures? Li Yuan, it's been more than a year. It's time for you to take care of the A shares, right? If you don't care anymore, all those white horse stocks will be taken away by others. The performance of A shares is very extreme. Some stocks rise sharply every day, while the white horse stocks in the past continue to fall every day. The god of wealth is really afraid that the few value stocks in the A-share market will be wiped out by others. Has foreign investment entered the market? Sure, they were robbed of a lot of money. Then sell it to them, sell the company to them. End of chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 383. It's not just the god of wealth who says this. Many people think that if there are no big bosses to take over the A-share market, the stocks of good companies will be taken over by Wall Street. Give up your high-quality assets to others. But for Li Yuan, those assets were not of high quality as expected. In Li Yuan's eyes, the quality of assets depends entirely on how much they can contribute to the market. As long as they are not indispensable, they are dispensable and new companies can be supported to replace them at any time. It's just that Wall Street likes to use this method to speculate. They like to go around saying that they have lost money and are ready to run, and they are crazy about short selling, so that A-share funds can follow the trend and drive the price down, so that they can buy the bottom in the future. But this time it was true, because Li Yuan put shares flat in advance, and the profits made by Wall Street in the previous 2 years were buried in it before they could be cashed in. Now we can only find a way out. As a result, the market began to speculate on how much Wall Street would buy at the bottom, and the high-quality assets of A-shares would soon fall into the hands of Wall Street. The purpose is to let those passionate people cause trouble online, and let big funds and the state come forward to promote the stock market to facilitate their relief. The whole world needs US dollars now. Who dares to buy the bottom at this time? It is impossible for funds to turn around until interest rate hikes take effect. Stocks are the most sensitive. They can stay flat for a whole year, let alone other markets. The reason why the god of wealth called Li Yuan specifically was because in May, June, and July, the US dollar raised interest rates 3 times in a row. The scale of interest rate hikes has already exceeded expectations. Including the capital representatives who participated in the previous meeting, they all followed Li Yuan's requirements honestly, supporting new stocks and no longer investing money in old stocks, even though many old stocks were mainly controlled by them. At present, I can't say that I can really make money from new stocks, at least the book is floating profit. It was as if others were fighting to the death on the old battlefield, while they opened up a new battlefield and frantically farmed and developed. This feeling is indescribably refreshing. The god of wealth said, I will retire next year, and there may be some changes. I hope you can understand me then. Li Yuan, it's not me who suffers anyway, as long as you don't cause trouble for me. Li Yuan's meaning is obvious. He will not be wronged. He will not make it easy for anyone who makes trouble for him. Even the god of wealth does not currently know how much wealth Li Yuan has. But he knew that Li Yuan had almost 1 million employees. This million is a high salary compared to the same industry, and wages are rising every year. Even if calculated based on the average annual salary of 100,000 yuan, this is a cost of 100 billion yuan. In fact, it must be more than that. There are no technical employees in Nanshan Group whose monthly salary is less than 10,000, and the same is true for Bixen. Including the expenditure on 5 social insurances and 1 housing fund, the per capita expenditure may be 200,000 yuan. The revenue of Li Yuan's companies has not increased significantly. Compared with the basic cost expenditure of 1 to 200 billion, it is definitely far from enough. However, Qinghe County's data is growing extremely fast. In a few days before the end of this year, the GDP has already exceeded 100 billion. Together with several surrounding counties, the GDP of the original 20 to 30 billion has reached 50 billion in more than 2 years. More than 10 billion GDP. The most important thing is that these increases have not had any impact on other places. They all realized that Li Yuan was exploring new tracks and did not continue to roll in traditional tracks. Qinghe County is the focus of their attention, because only Qinghe County has potential, who makes Li Yuan willing to spend money. If he has no money, he borrows it. As long as there is need, Li Yuan will invest money. The projects invested in often start at tens of billions per year. Before it was released, a lot of data could not be withdrawn. After liberalization this year, the vitality of Qinghe County will begin to explode. Fu Zonghai and Wu Yuhan got married. On January 3, 2023, he came to Qinghe County with Wu Yuhan, mainly to take a look at the product problems of his factory. Their products are mainly sold through two sales channels, one is Bixin Mall and the other is the two Dashin supermarkets in Qinghe County. One is at the entrance of Li Yuan's village, and the other is in the center of the county. In the future, one will be opened in that living community that is under construction. Dashin Supermarket is an industry owned by Li Yuan. Because of service, quality, and regardless of cost, it has caused a dimensionality reduction blow to local supermarkets. They came here this time because there was a problem with the factory's products. Gao Ming, the person in charge of Dashin Supermarket, called them over to explain the results. After working for a long time, several of his products were finally labeled as having problems recently. This is the operating model of Dashin Supermarket. If there is a problem with any product, it will either be removed from the shelves directly, or a more stringent contract will have to be signed. The most important thing is that a 3-month label will be put on the relevant products to remind users that these products may be risky, and to remind everyone that once they choose to buy them, they will pay a minimum of 1,000 yuan in compensation regardless of the cost in the event of an accident. This compensation must be paid by the product factory. In terms of deposit alone, Fu Zonghai and Wu Yuyan paid 5 million until all 5 million was paid. Even if a customer buys this product and finds that a corner of the packaging bag is missing, it can be directly deemed as a product defect. It can be said that these 5 million must be completed 100%. No matter how strict the factory is, it cannot make all details 100% perfect. Wu Yuhan was so angry that she said, "I'm going to find the chief executive." Dashin Supermarket is clearly bullying people. Even if a hair fell out of the product, our product was removed from the shelves for 7 days without mentioning it, and they even paid 5 million to buy it. That's not how things are done. Fu Zonghai grabbed her and said, "It's useless to ask the chief rudder. How can we ask the chief rudder to interfere with Yuan Shen? Let's not cause any trouble to the chief rudder. That's 5 million. The factory's net profit in a year is not that much. When we cooperate with Bixin Mall, they have to check our staffing. As a result, all employees have paid 5 insurances and 1 housing fund, and their wages have also increased. More than 1,000, the profit itself is very low. The annual output value of her factory is 30 to 400 million yuan. In the past, she could wholesale to others or OEM for large manufacturers, and her annual profit could be around 10 million yuan. As a result, after developing our own brand in the past 2 years, even though we relied on Bixin Mall and Dashin Supermarket, the annual net profit was less than 2 million. This is still the result of continuing to OEM for those big brands, and the money earned before is not less. This is equivalent to a loss of 7 to 8 million every year. This 5 million guarantee is basically equivalent to 2 years of work in vain. Fu Zonghai explained, this is also to stabilize the quality of our products. If we do nothing and allow vicious competition, then sooner or later the market will be reduced to bad money driving out good money. Isn't the market just for making money? But isn't Dashin Supermarket not making money yet? Isn't Bixin Mall not making money yet? What do you mean? It's not time to make money yet. Fu Zonghai's strategy is very simple, that is, follow Li Yuan. If one day Bixin Mall makes money, Dashan supermarket makes money, but only suppliers like them do not make money, then it means there is a problem. Now, it's not that they haven't made any money, it's just that the profits they currently make cannot match the cost of the increased expenses. Okay, then you come with me, have a meal at the chief helmsman's house, and get the 5 million back. When it came to going to Li Yuan's house, Fu Zonghai was a little frightened and said quickly, "We'll go there in the evening. It's noon now, so maybe the chief rudder has just gotten up. After all, the chief rudder has been running around outside this year. Plus the weather is cold. Why don't we go to the Red Star Food Street? The restaurants there are the signatures of several nearby counties. Has it started operating? It has been in operation for more than half a year. Let's try it. If it tastes good, we will buy one when the Nanshan Group's house is built." Red Star Food Street is solely owned by Li Yuan. These include the hospital, a large shopping mall, and 2 office buildings. Over at the office building, employees of Qingtian Group have begun to move in large numbers. Next year, even the headquarters of Qingtian Group and its companies will be moved from Zhangzhou. The 2 food streets there have more than 100 delicacies of all kinds, including the signatures of several nearby counties. The current turnover is not good, but Li Yuan has given a large amount of subsidies. I haven't noticed anything in the center of the county, but as long as I walk to the south, many projects visible to the naked eye are in the completion stage. There is a large amusement park supporting the shopping mall, a newly built park around the lake, and various IP sculptures and landscaping. Li Yuan knew that there was an opera city in the Central Plains, which included performances from various eras. There is also the Qingming Riverside Garden. What he focuses on here is a combination of fashion and tradition. The costumes of traditional opera actors have not changed for many years, and the performance format has not changed for many years. This is not a good thing for the inheritance of tradition. Tradition does not mean conservatism. In this era, if you want to preserve it, you must find out what attracts young people. He integrated theater troupes from several nearby counties and paid a lot of money to bring all the craftsmen together. Various special snacks and various activities that can only be seen at temple fairs will become a norm in the future. In Li Yuan's view, many industries have not yet died. Just like games from more than 20 years ago, people are still willing to play them and even consume them. The game industry is iterating so fast that even games from more than 20 years ago are still remembered, let alone some activities that have been passed down for hundreds of years. It's just that the rules no longer apply to modern times and must be changed. For example, for ring roping, there are either no venues at present, or there are just a few tricks that can be used here and there, which really cannot attract everyone. No one wants to set up a resin model to take home, and no one wants to set up a can of Coke that has been dropped on the ground countless times to see if it has expired. Even so, videos about roping on the internet are still very popular. Everyone prefers watching it rather than playing it themselves. If it is more fun to watch than to play, it means there is something wrong with the project. At the same time, the bar has been completed and will be placed inside in conjunction with various sports. A social place like a bar can stimulate hormones, but it cannot just stimulate hormones. But the current bars are all for hormones. If it were not for legal constraints, it would only lead to a larger scale. You can definitely set up a project similar to the Xiong Dashan in the bar. The challenge will be free of charge, the challenge will be rewarded, and the social attributes will be stronger. Anyone who has advantages in wit or physical strength can show himself. These projects will basically open after the year. Zhang Yuling changed Zhang Shu and Li Jingqing's new clothes, came to the study to find Li Yuan, and said, "There will be guests at home later, when will you finish your work?" "Ah, I'm fine. I can go out at any time. Who wants to come?" "Fu Zonghai and Wu Yuhan." "Oh, I'm here for the deposit from Dashan supermarket." Gao Ming had told him about this a long time ago. After all, Gao Ming had met Fu Zonghai and Wu Yuhan and knew that they knew Li Yuan. However, Li Yuan had no intention of opening the back door, and things still followed the procedure. Anyway, once that label is posted, their products will be monitored by everyone entering the supermarket, which can give their brand some exposure. Dashin supermarket now receives more than 10,000 customers every day, which is a lot of traffic. It's easy to find fault with a product. For example, with melon seeds, it is normal for a few bad melon seeds to appear. For example, puffed food has irregularities, which is also normal. The main reason is that the problem they had last time was not particularly big. If it caused any adverse effects, they would definitely not be given the slightest chance. Zhang Yuling, what's the deposit? She didn't say anything. Li Yuan felt relieved when he heard that Wu Yuhan and the others were not here to complain. That's okay. When will they come? We'll be there in a moment. If you're busy, you don't have to go downstairs for the time being. It's okay. I'll be with you. I just have something to talk to Fu Zonghai. The decision that Fu Zonghai made him successful. It is difficult for ordinary people to make that kind of decision. After all, they are already addicted to the money-making market and cannot extricate themselves. Being able to wake up at that time shows that my heart is still very strong. Of course, if you are not mentally strong, it is impossible to escape from the family ties and reject the blind date. He planned to support Fu Zonghai to engage in the financial industry. After all, there was still a shortage of manpower. If there are 3 people including Fu Zonghai, Wen Yuxian, and Guo Meng, there will be more room for maneuver. As for what is illegal or not, the establishment of any new rules can only be achieved by stepping on blood. Violations are nothing. He was planning to restart A-shares last year. After more than a year, he has a small foundation, but he still needs to make the scale larger, and he still lacks a core. That is retail investors. Neither Wen Yuxian nor Guo Meng has the ability to truly guide retail investors. Their status is destined to prevent them from doing this. Fu Zonghai can do it, he is a retail investor. My own ideas can only be conveyed through Fu Zonghai, and the effect is the best. In the past 2 years, he has been perfecting his inner thoughts and laying out the new financial structure. Many functions of the traditional financial structure have actually fallen behind. The essence of finance has gradually been forgotten and turned into a carnival of speculators. The new financial structure has only one purpose and is responsible for every money. End of chapter. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 384. Fu Zonghai stayed at Li Yuan's house for a long time, starting at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and staying until about 8 o'clock in the evening before checking into the Tianlan Hotel with his wife. After arriving at the hotel, Wu Yuhan asked curiously, "You and Li Yuan have been chatting for so long. What on earth were you talking about?" She was curious. Fu Zonghai sighed with emotion. Yuan Shen's thoughts are different from those of us ordinary people. He no longer plays with money, but with power. What is potential? This, actually I don't quite understand. It can also be understood as the trend of the times, and Yuan Shen is guiding this trend and changing this trend. Wu Yuhan frowned. This can't be changed by human power, right? No one can stop the flow of the times. She still believes in some guidance. Fu Zonghai smiled and said, "It has nothing to do with me anyway. I took a photo with Yuan Shen in the study and immediately posted it to my social account. He found the photo and edited a caption. I chatted with my idol for several hours and benefited a lot. The next step is to add photos. Li Yuan has not appeared on the internet for a long time. Zhang Yuling's account now posts more about the situation in remote areas and the arrangements for Qingtian Group's assistance projects. For example, how many teaching materials and equipment have been purchased, how many teachers have been recruited. There is no shortage of places like Hope Primary School. What is missing is teachers, teaching materials, and canteens, which are the guarantee for those children to go to school. As long as there are no problems at home, there are basically no children who are not allowed to go to school. What Qingtian Group does is to let those people have no worries. We should also try our best to improve the local teaching staff so that they have more opportunities to participate in the college entrance examination. You can't just go out to work after 9 years of compulsory education. Thousands of people leave comments on Li Yuan's social account every day. The last post he posted was 2 years ago, and the number of comments has exceeded 3 million. Li Yuan will not spend money to buy trolls and buy likes and comments. This photo of Fu Zonghai quickly became popular on the entire internet. Before this photo, some people even had conspiracy theories that Li Yuan was actually dead, but they did not dare to announce it because of his special status. Now this photo can prove that Li Yuan is still fine, and his demeanor in the photo also looks very healthy. Fu Zonghai's social account originally only had a few thousand followers, which he had accumulated when he showed off his positions in the past. That group had mostly friends at the beginning. He got off the bus perfectly. Not only did he make all the profits in the market, he also married a rich woman like Wu Yuhan. But a large part of those people in the group lost 1/3 or even 1/2 of their profits. Now I see Fu Zonghai and Li Yuan sitting together and chatting together, I feel envious and jealous in my heart. Brother, tell the truth, did Yuan Shen teach you the secret book? We are brothers. Have you forgotten that when you first started a group, I was the first one to cheer you up? If you are a brother, bring one with you. I didn't listen to your advice at first, but now I feel regretful. Yuan Shen belongs to everyone. Please don't hide your secrets, brother. All of us are willing to regard our brother as the only disciple of Yuan Shen. Fu Zonghai's fans are on the rise. In just one day, the number of fans increased by hundreds of thousands. And his application for friend comparison never stopped. The previous group friends began to chat with him privately, asking what they had talked about with Li Yuan. Fu Zonghai responded enthusiastically, but never mentioned what they talked about. What he has to do now is to repeat the path Li Yuan took before. I found my Qingtian Securities account that had been cleared, transferred 1 million into it, and then posted a heartwarming circle, saying, after more than a year, I have entered the market with another 1 million. I hope I can live up to Yuan Shen's love for me. God. Many people's expressions changed after seeing it. This bastard refused to tell me no matter how much I asked, and now he made a high-profile entrance, making it clear that he wanted to be alone. Some people were not angry and went directly to leave a message to Li Yuan, Yuan Shen, with the blood of thousands of people, begging Yuan Shen to depose the chief disciple of the Shen Alliance. But Li Yuan would not respond with just a few words. The next day, Fu Zonghai posted a screenshot of his trading and made 3 points despite the poor stock market conditions. On the third day, Fu Zonghai made 4 points. On the fourth day, I made 3 points. On the fifth day, I made 4 points. He posts screenshots of himself in the Bixen circle every day and is greeted by people. There are a lot of people who chat with him privately every day. There are even women who send him various photos to seduce him. As a result, after Wu Yuhan saw it, he directly blocked the other party. There are people who sincerely want to trade stocks with him and want to ask him for advice. Of course, there will be times when you don't get any useful answers and you start to get frustrated. That was it, until mid-January. Fu Zonghai's number of close friends has exceeded the upper limit of 5,000, and this is despite blocking hundreds of people every day. After screening, the remaining 5,000 people were all the ones he thought were suitable, and then he created a few new groups and proposed his idea of doing a public fundraiser. For public fundraising, as long as 100 million is needed, Wu Yuhan's family can come up with this money with grit, but they can also borrow it if they can't. However, he definitely wanted to grow bigger, so he attracted funds from several large investors and was considered an investor in the company. He only enjoyed the right to dividends and did not have decision-making power. The decision-making power is in the hands of the couple. He holds 60% and Wu Yuhan holds 40%. They absorbed 80 million funds and took 40% of the shares. The decision-making power of these shares was handed over to Fu Zonghai. Fu Zonghai doesn't plan to advertise either. It's enough for the 5,000 people to know about it in the early stage. After all, although he has experience, he is indeed a novice and needs to take his time. Behind the 80 million investment was money taken by hundreds of people. Several of them formed a company and took shares in the name of the company. There may also be cross-shareholdings. It doesn't matter to the company. What Fu Zonghai wants is the ability to use funds. As for whether it will make less money, he has never thought about it. Without these shareholders, it would be impossible for the couple to start the company unless they brought Li Yuan to the platform. But Li Yuan will definitely not come. In name, Li Yuan is still the major shareholder of Qingtian Capital. Although Qingtian Capital has lost money this year, Li Yuan once again had to run to both hospitals at home. Qin Si gave birth to a boy half a month ago. The ninth one. The overall foundation has taken shape, and the next test for him is how to lead these little guys well. This is not an easy thing. Many problems will arise due to the age gap, the gap in living environment, the management gap between parents, and the gap in status. But, he is shameless anyway. Trick those kids into calling daddy all day long. Even if Zhou Ranran and Shen Anna corrected them again and again, sometimes the children would still be led astray. The situation is like this. Zhou Ranran and the others will never admit that the child is Li Yuan's. Only in this way can Zhang Yuling not be angry. Li Yuan thinks this is good, at least the children will get along better. He didn't want to see any unethical things happening in his home, so it would be better for everyone if he made his identity known in advance. Song Jiajia will also come to Qinghe County to work in the next year, so Song Ju will naturally follow. And in a few months, the entire world will return to normal, and the scale around us will expand a lot. He, the kindergarten director, was about to start working. There are still more than 10 days left before the Chinese New Year, and the flavor of the New Year this year will definitely be stronger than in previous years. Fireworks are not allowed in Qinghe County, there will even be a fireworks show at Huanhu Park. The entire Qinghe County is decorating the New Year atmosphere, with red lanterns and ribbons everywhere on the streets. Since we have money, the roads in Qinghe County will not break down from time to time, and there is no need for such projects. After all, if there is a problem on the road, the logistics losses will be more than just that amount of money. In such a large county, there are hundreds of cleaners, and the roads are rarely dirty. Once the new urban area is completed, it will basically be comparable to first-tier cities in all aspects. What is missing is the airport, and the high-speed rail will be open to traffic in a few months. However, there is an airport in Zhangzhou. After getting off the plane and taking the high-speed rail, you can reach Qinghe in 10 minutes, so the traffic is not too stressful. Chen Qi and his girlfriend stayed in Zhangzhou for 2 months and finally came back. He is different from Gu Dongshen. He is rushing to get married. Although his current girlfriend is with him because of money, after being together for 2 months, he feels that it is quite suitable for marriage. No matter who it was, no one gave him any advice. Anyway, as long as it was determined by him, there would be no problem. However, the first time Chen Qi came here, he was pulled away by Li Wanhe. A table was specially set up at the restaurant in front of the door, with half a caddy of Chen Qi's liquor. During this period, Gu Dongsheng accompanied him. Chen Qi was stunned. He certainly didn't dare to refuse Li Wanhe's request, and he drank quite happily. Gu Dongsheng was watching from the sidelines, but he didn't drink anyway. Chen Qi's current experience is the same as he was 2 months ago. After he was dizzy from drinking, Li Wanhe showed his true colors. Xiao Chen, I heard that you have several gold mines outside. Chen Qi stammered, well, yes, the output is not very large, only about 30 tons per year. Those were the achievements of Gu Dongsheng and Shen Tianfu, and they had won no less than 50 mining rights over the years. The money was given by Li Yuan and went to Lianhua Trust's account. Among them, there are 9 gold mines. At present, there are more than 50 mines employing no less than 300,000 workers, and their wages are several times higher than others. Gallic Chicken and the others hire locals to mine, which is basically the same as not giving them any money. If they survive a day of exhaustion, they can guarantee that the family will eat steamed buns and not starve to death. Want to save money? Dream. This is equivalent to about 800 yuan per capita. Gu Dongsheng and the others offered a monthly salary of 3,000 yuan, organized those people to farm, formed large-scale cities, and imported a large number of domestic industrial products for sale. With such good treatment, people from poor places abroad are flocking to it. Now Gu Dongsheng and the others have started to use the land to grow food, grow fruits, explore local specialties, and even prepare to engage in tourism. After all, the laws and regulations in those places are not perfect, hunting is legal, eating wild animals is also legal, and all kinds of tigers and lions can be raised. As long as they provide good service and put safety measures in place, they can attract people to come and spend money. Buying machinery and opening farmland can also expand their influence. Although it only has a scale of 300,000 people now, it will gradually reach a scale of 3 million. When the time comes, it will be up to me. Whether in Africa or South America, this is the model. This has caused the cost of their mineral output to skyrocket, as if they were doing charity. The price of gold is currently 450 yuan per gram, and their mining cost has reached 330 yuan, which is higher than the mining cost of poor mines in China. Including smelting, transportation, storage, etc. The cost is close to 361 grams. Li Wanhe said, that's it, uncle, I want a batch of gold, and I want you to give me an even share. Do you think it's okay? Ah. Chen Qi shook his head and became more awake. All that gold is going to be sold to Qingtian Group. After all, Vixen Mall needs a lot of gold. Especially for the many loyal old users, under the VIP system, basically everyone has a share in their hands. At the beginning, the price of gold was only more than 200, and they met the VIP level. Recently, the price of gold has increased, and many people have started to withdraw cash. At this time, Qingtian Capital can still only give to the other party according to the prevailing market price, not the current price. Many people made more than 20,000 yuan from this. Vixen consumes around 20 tons of gold every year. Over the years, only 100 tons of gold have been transported to the country. According to feedback from UU, the gold reserves can only last for 2 years at most, so the subsequent annual share can only be given to Qingtian Group and cannot be given to others. Uncle, I really can't help it, I'm just a part-time worker. Chen Qi looked at Gu Dongsheng with a grimace. This guy didn't help either. Is this something he can decide? Gu Dongsheng was very calm. He told Li Yuan about this, and Li Yuan meant, no. Everyone knows that Li Wanhe likes to hoard gold. What's the use of hoarding that stuff? Far less important than current business operations. Li Wanhe said righteously, who dares to say that you are a part-time worker? I just don't have the ability, uncle. I can't, I can only come here to beg you. I hope you can help me a little. This. How can I help? The global production of gold is not large, only 2,000 to 3,000 tons a year. Uncle, can't I buy it from you at the market price? What Li Wanhe said was a grievance. Chen Qi could only look at Gu Dongsheng. In the end, Gu Dongsheng had no choice but to pull Li Wanhe and said, "Uncle, how about this? I will think of a way to get you 10 tons every year. Then I will give you the cost price. We can do it. I estimate the cost will not be low, at least 300 yuan per gram." Although gold is priced in US dollars per ounce, Gu Dongsheng gave a public figure in order to facilitate Li Wanhe's understanding. When Li Wanhe heard this, he immediately became happy. "Haha, I know that your two eldest nephews' pain is not in vain. Wait, I still have a lot of good wine at home. I will send it to you later. What will happen in the village in the future? Just contact me directly, I promise to get it done for you." After saying that, Li Wanhe left. He has a lot on his plate. Chen Qi and Gu Dongsheng were left staring with big eyes. After a while, Chen Qi asked, "Lao Gu, that's 10 tons of gold. Where did you get it?" "The current production capacity is fixed, and the share has long been reserved by Qingtian Group." Gu Dongsheng said, "If you have no other choice, you have to agree first. In the worst case, I will go grab some gold mines and come back." "Chen Qi, you are awesome." He wouldn't dare to say such big words anyway. Gu Dongsheng might be able to do it. End of chapter. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 385. 2023 is here. Li Jingcheng is only 1.5 years younger than Zhang Shu, so he is already 3 years old at this time. However, this guy has a relatively quiet personality and seldom causes trouble. Compared to Zhang Shu, he is simply a good boy. Li Yuan was awakened early in the morning by the sound of glass exploding. Zhang Yuling on the side stood up immediately and blocked him behind him. Then, I noticed that there didn't seem to be any movement around. It seems to be the sound coming from the first floor. Li Yuan said something. The glass on the second floor is not only opaque, but also bulletproof and less likely to break. Zhang Yuling felt relieved and said, "Don't move here, I'll go downstairs and take a look." Li Yuan said, "It's okay, let's go together." They have all rang. If something really happened, the security guard must have arrived. If he missed the first moment, it would not be easy to kill him. Zhang Yuling immediately started to put on clothes and brought his own equipment at the same time. After the two of them carefully went downstairs, they discovered that it was Zhang Shu who caused the trouble. He set off cannons in the yard early in the morning. After blowing up the window, Zhou Wan was hugging her and asking if she was injured. Li Wanhe went out early in the morning and was not at home. Zhang Yuling was very angry, but she was protected by Zhou Wan, so it was not easy for her to teach Zhang Shu a lesson. After returning upstairs, she said, "Did you pick up the wrong baby in the hospital?" Zhang Shu was a little too outrageous. Why is he so brave? He's only 5 years old, and he dares to shoot off cannons by himself. If he were older, I don't know what he could do. Li Yuan on the side didn't say anything, because, he gave those cannons. There were fireworks and a bunch of gadgets set off in the village last night. He gave a few to Zhang Shu. Based on his observation of Zhang Shu in the past 2 years, he found that this little guy has a super strong learning ability. Of course, he should play all the things he should play while he has time now. He likes new things, so the games he has played will not be so attractive to him later. I'm going to ask later who brought those dangerous items into the village. No matter who it is, don't expect me to give him face. Zhang Yuling rarely went crazy. At this time, Li Yuan could not continue to pretend not to know, and said quickly, "That was actually given to me last night. I have already told the guy to pay attention to it, but I didn't expect, it didn't hurt either people." Oh. Zhang Yuling said nothing more. But since then, she has been in a low mood. Even during lunch, she remained silent, except for the words "she was very angry" written on her face. After having lunch, Li Yuan decisively took Zhang Shu to find Zhang Yuling and said to Zhang Shu, "Hurry up and apologize to mom. You got into trouble today, right?" Zhang Shu could only lower his head and apologize honestly. Zhang Yuling rolled his eyes and said to Li Yuan, "You should be the one to apologize, right? You are the one who offended me." Li Yuan hurriedly apologized and said with a smile, yes, I did something wrong too. I'm sorry, wife." "Don't be angry, wife. Anger easily causes wrinkles." Zhang Shu immediately ran downstairs, brought Zhou Wan's family heirloom, handed it to Zhang Yuling, and said, "Mom, here you are, beat me hard." Zhang Yuling. "Bastard. Look at what these children have been taught by Li Yuan. Zhang Shu probably doesn't know what fatherly love is yet." Li Yuan decided to reward him so that he would not be punished for being a lowly person in society in the future. Fried meat with slaps has become the main theme of the afternoon. It is true that Li Yuan rarely educates his children about respect and inferiority. He does not want to distinguish any class with his children. He carefully explained the position of parents around their children and only asked them to have basic respect for their parents. In this way, if anything happens in the future, we can communicate with parents in time. Requiring children to listen to their parents too much will make them rebellious and fearful, and they must consider their parents in everything they do. This will be beneficial in some things, such as some behavioral matters with great security risks. But this can be taught in other ways, and it does not necessarily require the authority of parents to make children fearful. This process will also give parents a strong desire to control, making the children more rebellious as they get older. But the price of not teaching at all is that children are too self-centered. Li Yuan is also a novice baby daddy, and he is slowly exploring everything. His advantage is that he is young and has higher empathy for children. Of course, the most important thing is to have money and not worry about life. If he had to work every day to support his family, he wouldn't have the energy to think about child care. For Chinese people, the New Year does not begin until after the Lunar New Year. Li Yuan felt the same way. Qinghe County is bustling with activity. This year the entire county has money and everyone is willing to spend. Dashan supermarket was crowded with people buying New Year's goods. Li Yuan also asked Gao Ming to reserve some of the New Year's goods in advance, and he distributed them all 2 days before the New Year. The New Year's goods he prepared were all popular New Year's goods, and the New Year's goods prepared by Ho Wenbin and Gu Dongsheng were all unique. For example, Li Yuan's family received 2 wild large yellow flowers and a pair of yellow-lipped fish swim bladders from Ho Wenbin. The one with a certificate. After all, the yellow-lipped fish is considered a protected animal, but if a shark happens to kill the yellow-lipped fish without eating it, and someone is nearby to record it, it can be eaten. Gu Dongsheng spent a lot of money to buy a lot of expensive tea and gave some away from house to house. Some bring wine, some bring meat. Because there are now more residents in the village, Song Dalong has also increased the dose. Not only are large amounts of whole grains produced by our own group delivered every year, but organic pork is also delivered every now and then. Whether it is worth the money or not, the sense of presence must be sufficient. He knew very well what kind of people lived in the village. Li Yuan's big net has just been cast open. Although he has not shown any movement, this net is very big. On New Year's Eve, Li Yuan lost everything at the card table, and even coaxing Zhang Shu and Li Jingqing's New Year's money away was not enough. Gu Dongsheng accepted the money with a smile and said, "Old Li, you are not good at this. Why are you killing everyone in the stock market but never winning at the poker table? Isn't it all gambling?" Li Yuan said angrily, "Can it be the same? The stock market has rules and data. Damn it, let's play cards. I don't even know which card is better. Your rules change every day." To put it bluntly, Li Yuan just didn't want to use his brain. He is afraid that if he uses his brain too much, he will become insane in the future. Then you go home quickly, Teacher Zhang, to get the money. It's only 2 o'clock in the morning, so it's early. If she finds out, she will definitely come over and win all your money. Haha, okay, let Teacher Zhang serve. You are all such heavy smokers, and I can only tolerate you. Who can survive here for more than 3 seconds? The air here is almost turning into a poison gas laboratory. Li Yuan asked Gu Dongsheng to borrow some more money and fought for an hour before stopping. Before leaving, Gu Dongsheng said, "You owe me 8,000 tonight, remember it? Why do you even count the scores at the poker table? Who in the world doesn't know that stuff is not protected by law?" Gu Dongsheng smiled, "That's okay. Anyway, I'll keep the accounts first, and let my daughter ask for it from your son in the future." "Okay, ask Jiangshu for it." Jiangshu didn't know it yet, but just because of 8,000 yuan, his father sold him again. Li Yuan ran to Chenji to take a bath and enjoyed Cao Yuan's massage. "I woke up around 8 o'clock in the morning, feeling refreshed. Even if it's just 5 hours of sleep. This is healthcare." The first day of the Lunar New Year is also the busiest day in the village, with a lot of people coming and going. It was all a small scene last night, and it had no real meaning. The first day of the new year is the time for year-end summary. The second generation group represented by Ho Wenbin, under the leadership of Li Yuan, has been active in Qingtian Group and Nanshan Group in the past 2 years, and its power has gradually increased. The only thing Li Yuan can guarantee is that if he is still alive, no one can make waves. A new system will be needed later, but not now. He hasn't even mentioned the Spark project yet. At least wait a little longer. When the forces of all parties are balanced and the entire team becomes stronger, it will be a good opportunity to propose it. Cao Ping also came over to talk about the situation, the employment situation in Qinghe County. This year's GDP exceeded the milestone of 100 billion, etc. Li Yuan also announced the income of the family fund last year. Last year's income was not high, with only 25 million dividends per share, which was just 50%. The family fund is the basis for everyone's work. After all, they have invested heavily in the past 2 years and have not made much money. As for the family foundation, the annual income of 200 million to 300 million yuan is enough for them. On the second day of the Lunar New Year, Yao Yingsong came back alone. The reason was that Wang Qi was not in good health and was just 6 months pregnant. In the first month of the year, Qinghe County is very popular. Many people who go out to work have no idea that their hometown is changing so quickly. When I returned to my hometown during the Chinese New Year, I found that it was a royal level of enjoyment. When you get to the station, you don't have to worry about being ripped off, even locals are afraid of this. And you can enjoy free ride service anytime and anywhere, even in the middle of the night. You can also take you back to your hometown. The county is very clean, and no business dares to cheat anyone. There are very few IQ tax products in the entire market, and the services are countless times better than before. Service and price simply don't match. There is no such service in first-tier cities. With cheap living costs and high-quality life services, you can basically buy anything you want and it's very convenient. It's hard not to feel it. Hospitals and schools are expanding their enrollment, and even a branch of Zhangzhou University is under construction, covering an area of 4,000 acres. This kind of school, which obviously skews admissions, is also a key undergraduate program, and its advantages are visible to the naked eye. Especially those from outside the country who come to celebrate the new year at the woman's or the man's house for various reasons, are shocked that a small county can play such a high-end game. In March, the market began to ferment. Various guides for traveling to Qinghe County on a budget have even appeared on the internet. You can enjoy a week in Qinghe County for only 350 yuan. From food to scenic spots, From transportation to shopping. It's just that the humanities are still a bit lacking, and there will always be some old stubborns who can't adapt to the new era and cause trouble. Old men and women can still act hooligans. This situation can only be solved by CAOPing. First, investigate the other party's family situation, whether he is too poor to open the pot, and whether something happened at home. If not, and on the contrary, the family is very wealthy, then it will cause trouble. Found one to crack down on one. Finally, a special urban civility bonus was set up. As long as you have a Kinghe County household registration and have not been caught uncivilized footage by Kinghe County surveillance within a year, you can bring your ID card and household registration book to receive 2,000 yuan at any time in the second year. Dollars, and can be accumulated. There are 600,000 people in Kinghe County, and the expenditure is 1.2 billion. Taking the initiative to initiate a civil dispute is considered a violation, and criminal liability will affect the entire family. Kinghe County just spent money to create a civilized society, and it was absolutely civilized and polite. Li Yuan has been taking care of a dozen children in the kindergarten for the first half of the year. Of course, I didn't forget to tell Anna Shen to be responsible for the financial operations. Even though the US dollar has been raising interest rates, US stocks are doing well. After all, those Wall Street gentlemen can't stand the days of not making money. Moreover, with so much interest on the US dollar, a profit point is needed to balance it. How to make money? It must be to boost the stock market. The US stock market is their financial weapon. Normally, hundreds of billions of dollars are harvested every year, but when something big happens, $2 to $3 trillion are harvested. But they can rise. The main reason is that Wall Street is united enough and has the same goals. Li Yuan will definitely come here. In September, more than 100 buildings in the first area of Nanshan Group were renovated and these houses have been sold out. There is a special app on which you can perform cloud decoration on your own house. How much money is left after deducting the basic decoration can be made up later. There are more than 7,000 houses in these 100 renovated houses, with an average price of 18,000. They take low-interest loans from Aldhide Bank with an interest rate of 3 points. Basically, employees from Qingtian Group and Nanshan Group bought them. Of course, those around Li Yuan also bought one set for everyone in the family. For example, Gu Dongshen gave away 2 sets. The follow-up will definitely not sell very quickly, but Kinghe County is becoming more and more attractive, which can be seen from the internet. Kindergarten has started again in the second half of the semester. On the first day of school, Li Yuan assessed more than a dozen children. The method of asking questions on the spot was adopted, and the questions asked were also small things in daily life. Zhang Shu is not here because he and Zhou Mo have already gone to elementary school. When Li Yuan asked Li Siking a question, Li Siking's performance was unsatisfactory. Who is your mother? Oh, she has been busy recently, so you can pass the test. Chen Dai, your performance is not very good. Where is your mother? The teacher wants to talk to your mother. Chen Dai said timidly, Teacher, my mother is not at home, only Aunt Cao is. She said that the teacher is welcome to visit home at any time. Li Yuan encountered a tough situation. He turned and looked at Songju. Songju. Songju raised his head and said, Teacher, I have answered everything. Li Yuan said with a smile, Yes, you answered very well. The teacher is going to praise you in front of your mother. I hope you can keep up your efforts. The teacher will go with you after school. End of chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 386. Li Yuan came to Song Jiajia and discussed parenting issues with her for 2 hours. Then Li Yuan gave her a gift. It's a new phone. Song Jiajia was a little confused and asked, "What is this?" Huawei's new Mate 60. Song Jiajia was shocked. Is this thing out? Didn't he say that he would have to wait another half-month for the press conference? Li Yuan said, "It has already come out. I have ordered 12 million units for Bixin Mall. You can use it to operate it when the time comes." Originally, this phone was supposed to be released suddenly on August 29, but because of Li Yuan's problems, the butterfly effect has already started. For example, Raimundo will not come over until tomorrow, so naturally this phone will be hidden until now. In fact, mass production started 2 months ago, and Li Yuan spent more than 70 billion to order 12 million units. Of the future production capacity, 70% will be given priority to him. This phone is more advanced than its predecessor, which used a 14 nanometers processor. HiSilicon has designed it to run at a speed comparable to 7 nanometers. Overall, it's okay to say it's a competitive machine, but it's still somewhat unsatisfactory when it comes to performance. But now, Mate 60 is made using a 7 nanometers process and is designed to have performance comparable to 5 nanometers. Pro is a 5 nanometers process, which is comparable to 4 nanometers performance. He has been losing money because the chip yield rate is too low. Fortunately, a lot of 12 nanometers and 14 nanometers chips can also be packaged and sold to Huawei, otherwise. If the overall production value of chips is 10 billion, he will lose 16 billion. Huawei will bear 60% of this loss, because they can develop Porsche or folding screen mobile phones to earn some premiums, and the premiums for low-end phones are also not low. Li Yuan bears 40%, but enjoys pricing power. This technology will improve the yield rate a lot in 2 or 3 years, and he will not lose much money by then. I have to say that this topic is really easy to use. Although it is simple and crude, it is much simpler than ASML. It is just that the factory cannot be moved and requires a lot of investment. The lithography machine factory spent less than 30 billion on research expenses and early tape-out expenses. But the entire infrastructure construction cost more than 60 billion. Song Jiajia opened the phone and took a look. After booting up, I logged into my account and tried it out. It feels very comfortable in the hand. I checked the performance and experienced the overall smoothness. She has been using Honor in recent years. After all, it is her own brand. Have you broken through the chip blockade? Huawei's high-end phones in the past 2 years have been average because they don't have advanced chips. Li Yuan nodded. The chip is made by our Qingtian group. Song Jiajia. She also held the title of Vice President of Qingtian Group, and now serves as the President of Bixin. She is one of the top people in the entire Qingtian Group system. How come she doesn't know that Qingtian Group has a semiconductor layout project? At most, it is invested in some company stocks. Then why don't you use your own mobile phone? Good things should be given to outsiders first. If used on its own Honor phones, perhaps Honor phones can get rid of the image of low-end phones. Hasn't Li Yuan always wanted to be high-end? Because Honor can't afford it? For a mobile phone with more than 1,000 or 2,000 yuan, the processor cost is 1,560 yuan. If the brand strength is insufficient, it cannot be sold at a high price. Song Jiajia, didn't Kixing Motors start from scratch? Now it has a stable sales of 6,000 units per month. Although Kixing Motors still doesn't have much sales, it has been able to maintain operations. Li Yuan shook his head. It's different. Cars have huge profit margins. We can add services to them. You can't buy a mobile phone but also add all the previous services, right? That would be a huge loss. Apple's profit is 3,000 per unit. There are many, but there is no service, and Glory can't afford it either. Song Jiajia stopped talking and continued to experience it. After a while, he said, "It's still not as useful as Honor, there are too many ads." After Li Yuan invested in Honor mobile phones, he asked Honor to remove most of the advertisements. Even if there were advertisements, they were from his own company. Because our own company will not deceive people, and there will be no tricks in it. The main reason is that Honor deals with the elderly and students, who are themselves disadvantaged groups. They have a lot of Krypton gold games, routine online chats, and financial loan advertisements all day long. They don't have much discernment, which will make their lives worse. Li Yuan doesn't make that much money, he mainly does ecology. Song Jiajia also knows that it is not up to her to decide whether it is useful or not, because she does not have much demand for mobile phone performance. From a business perspective, Mate 60 is absolutely significant. At night, many people discovered something. On Huawei's official website, the Mate 60, which was supposed to have a press conference in the middle of the month, was suddenly on sale. The news spread quickly. Not only that, the phone parameters are even marked on the official website. Kirin 9000's 5 nanometers processor. In the eyes of many people, a country that cannot acquire the industrial pearl of high-end chips is an industrially backward country. This has always been an excuse for colonialists to attack the national self-confidence of the Chinese people. No one thought that Huawei could use 5 nanometer chips, because they have been sanctioned for several rounds, and they don't even have the right to control the communication chips, and no one helps them produce them. As a result, now, such awesome chips suddenly appeared, and they used 5G communication chips. So, this mobile phone is a collection of the most cutting-edge technology in the world. The heat burst out in an instant. Is this really fake? Where did the 5G chip come from? Did Qualcomm give it to it privately? The processor is also outrageous. How can anyone in China manufacture 5 nanometers? Although SMIC has the technology, it doesn't have a photolithography machine. Wang Jidian secretly gave it to me? Is the whole world stabbing the beautiful country in the back? This is what many people think of at the first time. After all, under the guidance of colonists and various marketing accounts, high-end lithography machines are the most powerful technology in the world, and no one can surpass this. In fact, UV lithography machines do have strong barriers, but they are still far from the best in the world. This thing can't affect the world's structure, except of course the beautiful country. After all, they need technological supremacy. Like Mao Zedong, people still use 96 nanometers. They don't take the so-called lithography machine to heart at all, and no one cares. Slowly, some professionals began to come forward. It can't be made by foreign OEMs. Their beautiful father is standing on top, and no one dares to mess around. After the mobile phone is released, you only need to find someone to research it, and you will know who made it, whether it is Qualcomm or Wanji Electric. Well, they are not asking for death. It is too late for them to kneel down and lick the beautiful father at this time. It seems that it is either OEM by SMIC, or Huawei happened to stockpile a batch of goods before the sanctions and is using them now. 5G communications were not yet popular in 2018, but standards had been formulated in the same year. Theoretically, it is possible to stock up on 5G communication chips, but it's just a bit of a rush. Most mobile phones were only officially connected to 5G communications in 2019. There is no reason to think they were available in 2018 and have not been used in the past 5 years. Haha, I feel like it is made from Lanzhou beef noodles. The knife skills can easily cut it to 5 nanometers. Isn't Kylin from Daewoo Club? I feel more like it was made by Daewoo Club. Is it possible it's Hongxing Erk? During the day, the entire internet was caught up in the rush to buy Mate 60. However, in order to give back to dealers for their hard life in recent years, Huawei chooses to go through offline dealers for most of his products. The scalpers queued up in the middle of the night. After buying the product, they immediately increased the price by 5 to 6,000 and sold it to online review bloggers and some bosses who were not short of money. Even so, there are still very few that can be purchased. Because today was not a sale day, they didn't have much stock on hand. But when guests come, you always have to give them a gift. Hua made a report for several executives, hoping to get part of the Qingtian Group's share. After all the goods stocked in the past 2 months were given to the Qingtian Group. It's a pity that this report was sent back. We can only take the future production honestly. No matter how popular this product is, it is impossible for them to get it from Li Yuan, because Li Yuan produced this thing. Moreover, he spent more than 70 billion to purchase the product before it was released, and he was already in charge of Hua. Except for Li Yuan, no one in the world could do it, and no one was willing to do such a thing. With the release of videos from some review bloggers, the popularity of Mate 60 has become even higher. Someone directly disassembled the chip to see who made it. As a result, I only saw 4 small words in the lower right corner of the chip's protective layer. Made in China. Even the usual English has been abandoned. Excellent design, ultimate performance, domestically produced top-notch chips, this step is officially announced to the world, and one of the pearls in the industrial crown is missing. Anything that can be produced domestically is garbage and is not worthy of being in the industrial crown. Li Yuan is different from Song Jiajia. He likes to use Huawei, which has stronger performance and more convenient functions. Although Honor also uses the Hongmeng system, its flagship models all purchase foreign chips, and the configuration of ordinary models is too low, making them less comfortable to use. After changing his mobile phone, he immediately opened his social account. On several mainstream platforms, his total number of fans exceeds 200 million. The new mobile phone is very good to use, but I feel sorry for some people. After all, another pearl in the industrial crown is missing. By the way, no need to guess, the chip of this mobile phone is owned by Qingtian Group. After all, we have invested in Mixui City, and the Snow King is omnipotent, just a small chip. Li Yuan has not spoken out for several years. This update is full of influence. The already hot topic has been once again hyped up by several dimensions. But everyone thought Li Yuan was telling a joke, but in fact what Li Yuan said was true. For half a month in a row, the popularity has not subsided, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs even gave Mate 60 as a gift. With a vesting car owner getting a Mate 60 mobile phone with just one phone call, users with Bixen VIP level 5 or above are directly eligible to purchase without queuing up to grab it, which suddenly put Vesting Auto and Bixen at the forefront. Car sales exceeded 10,000 in a single month for the first time, and Bixen's turnover also soared by nearly 20%. Huawei's delivery was getting slower and slower, and until the end he was scolded by many people, saying why there were so many more goods than XINs, and why Kixing Motors just distributed them so casually. For your products, your own channels are not as many as secondary channels. In the end, Mr. Huawei stood up and explained the matter. The Mate 60 mobile phone was only possible with the support of Mr. Li of Qingtian Group, and without any parameter support, Mr. Li directly ordered 12 million units without even producing a single mobile phone. This is absolute trust in the company, and the payment of more than 70 billion is also the rice grain sent to the company when the company is in the most difficult time. Everyone understands. I can only sigh with emotion at Li Yuan's generosity. That's more than 70 billion, without blinking an eye. The quality of the product is unknown, the sales situation is unknown, and 12 million units may be in your hands, but you are still willing to spend the money. It's too much of a risk to take. Li Yuan's image also began to gradually become fuller. Many people know that he is rich, but aside from vested interests, such as his employees and users who made money by investing in Qingtian Capital, many passers-by do not think that Li Yuan is any different from other capitalists. But now, there is a difference. More and more content is being mined. Regarding the employees' salaries of Qingtian Group, Li Yuan even paid 5 social insurances and 1 housing fund for migrant workers. What employee treatment and employee benefits? Venus Auto's exclusive services, which had not been widely spread before, were also exposed at this time. Some people said that their family members were seriously ill and could not make an appointment with a top expert. They made a call to Kixing Automobile's customer service, and they were able to get resources in this area the next day. Some people say that it has been difficult for children to go to school, and the employees of Kixing Motors ran through all the procedures in 2 days. Others said that some popular resources were simply unavailable, so they also called the service staff of Kixing Automobile. Some people also said that they wanted to confess their love to their girlfriends in the middle of the night, but they couldn't buy flowers or gifts. The Venus car service staff delivered them to the door of the hotel in the middle of the night, and even cooperated with them to confess their love. All of a sudden, it has been a hot topic for 3 months. Every day people on the internet are trying to see what level Kixing Automobile's service can reach. At the end of December, someone even directly revealed that Li Yuan knew fortune telling. Then this outrageous topic became a hot search topic. In Li Yuan's comment area, a lot of people asking him for fortune telling began to appear. On December 31st, Li Yuan got up early. After taking a look at the comment area, I thought of something again, so I immediately picked up my phone and started taking videos. Seeing that everyone is asking me to tell fortunes, let me make it clear first that I am a staunch materialist, and let's not engage in feudal superstition. But I happen to be free today, so let me tell you a fortune. I can't tell it personally, so let's do it. National luck, as we all know, next year will be the beginning of Josili's fire luck. We don't have to worry about it. It must be a good sign. If we calculate other things, let's consider the next door. Li Yuan started divination. When all the lines came out, he said to the hexagram, "Ahem, it doesn't seem to be good, otherwise others will say that I slandered them and they will not understand the hexagram. But I still want to remind the people in the island country that starting from tomorrow, be safe." Video clip, send. All major platforms will be updated as soon as possible. Then, it spread. Li Yuan, regardless of what was discussed on the internet, wandered around the village with his children. Because it was Sunday, and there was another day off for New Year's Day tomorrow, he took advantage of the holiday to unleash his child's wild nature. Only when he got up at 8 o'clock in the morning on January 1, 2024, he found that his phone was ringing. And Zhang Yuling, who had gotten up early, looked at him with a strange look. "What's wrong?" "It's okay, go and see for yourself." "Tell me what's wrong?" "There's no beginning or end." "Where can I guess?" But Zhang Yuling went directly to dress the child and ignored him. Li Yuan got dressed, got up, and prepared to see what happened. As a result, before I had time to look, I found a call from Wen Yuxian. He thought it was something big, after all, Wen Yuxian rarely called him. After getting through, he asked, "What's wrong?" Wen Yuxian's voice was still so clear and clear. "Don't you know how to tell fortunes?" The little girl wants to ask her husband to help her tell fortunes. The regular plot has concluded. Later, about 200,000 words will be added about the family, describing Li Yuan's achievements from several descendants of the family. The new book "I Stole Someone Else's Ticket to Rebirth" has been released. It is not under this pen name. You can search the title of the book directly on the Kidian Chinese website. It is not available on other platforms for the time being. So far, everyone has reported that the new book is good. I strive to write better female characters in the new book. The book is currently still going through the contract signing process. If you invest before signing the contract, the profit will be good. I'll post the closing remarks after the family plot is finished. If you don't want to read the follow-up, you can stop here. Thank you all for your company, I love you. End of chapter. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 387. Zhangzhou University Qinghe Branch is a university that was built 18 years ago. Over the years, its teaching staff has become stronger and it has undertaken more and more projects. Its global ranking has risen to the first place, making it a dream for many students. Guyu is the same as everyone else, but there are some differences. She was able to enter this university because her father donated a building to the school and then gave her a special quota. Her own score in the college entrance examination is only 550. In this school where only a score of 700 is required to be admitted, even if she is given the answers to the college entrance examination, she may not be able to pass the exam. But she just got in. You know, in China, there is no such thing as donating a building to get into the school, even in Qingbei. Of course Zhangzhou University Qinghe branch can't, she is the only special case, who knows where this special case came from. Anyway, she had been in school for 3 months, but she didn't understand the teacher's lectures at all. The pace was too fast. In the midterm test, she gloriously got the lowest score in the class. And there is no one with worse grades than her in all majors. In any subject, she is ranked last. She didn't understand why other children in the compound could go to other places if they couldn't get into the school, and why the family just let her go to college at home. Look at Zhou Fanju, how cool he is living in Shanghai, playing with his deadbeat boyfriend every day. Her boyfriend who is a bitch is really damned. He could come to Zhangzhou University, but in order to chase Zhou Fanju, he had to go to Shanghai Finance and Economics. Who doesn't know that Zhangzhou University in Qinghe County is ranked number 1 in the world in finance and economics? It even often invites top bosses like Wen Yuxian and Guo Meng to give lectures. They are all bosses who can manage more than 10 trillion in funds. Both Laikian Capital and Xingtian Capital are the cornerstones of A shares, and any one of their research reports can determine the life or death of a listed company. Zhangzhou University's headquarters used to be ranked only over 100 in the world. However, many people know that the previous evaluation standards were set by the West. After China took complete control of the media discourse 14 years ago, standards changed. As for this branch, driven by a large amount of funds, various projects have been jointly launched, and in less than 10 years, it has become the number 1 in the world. In the words of his father, this is the advantage after mastering the media. Whoever has the right to speak in the media can control certain standards. Now when we talk about Zhangzhou University, we are referring to the Qinghe County branch. Guyu sat in the last row of the lecture theater, which was her royal seat. If she moved closer to the front, she would be asked questions, but she couldn't answer them. At this moment, a girl next to her suddenly screamed, and then shouted, "Senior Zhangshu, I love you." Guyu raised her head and saw a tall and handsome figure with a cold face walking into the classroom. However, he did not come to the seats below, but stood on the podium. She was too familiar with Zhangshu. This guy had abused everyone in the compound since he was a child and was unable to take care of himself. She was born in 2024, when Zhangshu was already in elementary school. Zhangshu's academic experience is still the ceiling of the small courtyard so far. Even if Aunt Chu's son Yang Fan took the college entrance examination in the second semester of high school and was directly admitted to Beijing University, he was still behind Zhangshu. Zhangshu's 9-year compulsory education is progressing one step at a time, and the state no longer allows him to skip grades. But after graduating from junior high school, he took the college entrance examination directly. At that time, Beijing University was the top university in the country, and he got in with a score of 714. That year, he was only 15 years old. After 4 years of university study, I came to Zhangzhou University to study for a master's degree and a PhD, and I am currently engaged in a doctoral-related major, referred to as a postdoctoral fellow. This tall and handsome senior occasionally gives lectures to some professors. His cold temperament makes many top-level girls greedy to death. The situation of the girl next to her happened more than once. Guyu hates Jiangshu very much because her poor college entrance examination results were caused by Jiangshu. Jiangshu insisted on giving her tutoring, but she lost her mentality, otherwise she could have passed the exam at least 580. Although there is no difference. On the podium, Jiangshu said calmly, "Professor Chen is not feeling well. From now on, I will be the agent for the World Economics course. My name is Jiangshu, and I have taught you modern economics and discrete mathematics before. My standards, everyone should it's also clear, so I won't say much more here. Let's roll your name first." Guyu was in the last row, staring at Jiangshu on the podium. She knew that she was going to fail another class. In the previous courses, although I did poorly in the exam, I basically passed the exam inexplicably. But of Jiangshu's 2 courses, she only scored 16 points in modern economics and 8 points in discrete mathematics. This is a university where you can only get into with a score of 700, and you got single digits. She seriously suspected that Jiangshu was deliberately targeting her. Now that she is fine, she feels that she failed too many subjects and needs to retake them. "Guyu. Arrive." She replied quickly. When he came here, Jiangshu should have continued to call names, but he suddenly stopped and looked at Guyu in the last row. The 18-year-old girl is very cute, but has a poor attitude towards learning. So he said, "Guyu, you only scored 16 points in modern economics." Ha ha. The classroom burst into laughter. After all, the number 16 points is really funny. Guyu lowered her head, planning to return to the compound to complain about Jiangshu's behavior of uncovering scars. Uncle Lu Hansheng is very easy to talk to and likes himself very much. Bear with it for now. But Jiangshu had no intention of letting her go. "Guyu, your father is the chairman of Nanshan Group, right? He is one of the founders of the modern economy. It is hard for me to imagine that since you applied for the economics major, you would actually hand in an answer sheet of 16 points. I think you are very disgrace, Mr. Gu." After Jiangshu said this, no one laughed. Because they only found out at this time that Guyu was actually the daughter of the richest man in the world. Oh my god. Gu Dongsheng of Nanshan Group. Nanshan Group is a full-scale real estate company with a scale of RMB 100 billion. It has more than 10 million employees worldwide and serves more than 200 million customers. Guyu lowered his head and said nothing. Jiangshu continued, "The core content of modern economics is the exploration of modern economic structure. 15 years ago, the world's main economic structure was called the dollar structure. The whole world was forced to call the victim of the US dollar. At that time, it was Mr. Gu and his colleagues who opened up a new economic battlefield, focusing on internal circulation, supplemented by external improvement of comprehensive strength, and forcibly dragged the Huaxia currency out of the quagmire of US dollar finance. So far, this incident is the biggest miracle in economic history. Guyu, don't you really think it's embarrassing that you scored 16 points? You have a greater advantage than others. You can get into Zhangzhou University with more than 500 points. You have to know that it is equivalent to seizing other people's places. In this case, you can't be worse than others at least, right? At least you have to prove that you are qualified to study at Zhangzhou University, right?" Guyu clenched her hands so tightly that her nails were about to dig into her palms. No one had ever spoken to her like this, and it was in front of so many classmates. Jiangshu made it clear that he was saying she was stupid, and it still didn't work even if it affected the school. Jiangshu didn't consider her dignity or feelings at all. If she said this in private, she might admit it, and Jiangshu wouldn't be able to quarrel with him anyway. But today, the shame is really about to explode. Guyu, in fact, you failed in all subjects. The other teachers gave you a symbolic 60 points because of your father's face. These 60 points are not your strength and have nothing to do with you. 0.8 points and 16 points are your true level. Guyu gritted her teeth. Jiangshu was still saying there, Mr. Gu is a figure who is qualified to leave a strong mark on the history of world economics. If you can't pass the class I'm going to teach next, Guyu. Guyu suddenly stood up and stared at Jiangshu. The whole class was stunned. They were also confused today. They didn't know why Jiangshu suddenly targeted Guyu. But ever since I found out that Guyu was the daughter of the world's richest man, I started to look better and better at it. Guyu originally wanted to refute, but she didn't want to come to this university. Her family arranged for her to come, so it had nothing to do with her. Why should this fault be placed on yourself? Is it amazing that you, Jiangshu, are smart? Can you humiliate people like this? But in the end, he suppressed his emotions, left his seat, opened the back door of the classroom and ran out. You will be considered absent from work today, and you will lose your usual points. When he ran to the door of the classroom, Jiangshu's words still came to him. Zhangzhou University is not much different from other schools. They all have a time-sharing system. This is also the reason why Guyu was able to pass. The teacher only had to fill up the usual score and put a little more water when correcting the paper, and he would get 60 points. Even if she only writes one solution, it will be her scoring item. For courses like World Economics, where the usual points were gone and the representative paper required 100 points to pass, she had no hope in her life. She didn't intend to pass the test anyway, that guy Jiangshu just wanted to see her make a fool of herself, and it was useless to do anything like normal. She felt that even if she was poor, even if her studies were difficult, no matter how bad she was, she could still pass the exam, or hover around the passing line. Jiangshu's 2 courses must have been deliberately targeted at her, causing her to score 16 points and 8 points, which has become a shame for Zhangzhou University in the past 10 years. She really wanted to rush to the podium and hit someone. After leaving school, she went straight back to the compound because she felt she couldn't stay in school anymore. Her father was about to go home today, and she decided to talk to her father about it. If she couldn't transfer to another school, she would repeat her senior year in high school. Anyway, the further away from Jiangshu, the better. It's said to be a compound, but it's actually a very big village. When she took a taxi back to the village gate, she saw several old men playing cards at the entrance of the village. Maybe others don't know, but she knows very well that these people have the greatest say in the village. Including my own grandfather. Of course, the most powerful ones are Li Wan and Grandpa. There is one thing that the outside world doesn't know at all, but the people in the compound know it well. 20 years ago, after the US dollar harvested several small economies around the world, it still could not make up for its own shortfall, so it began to raise and lower interest rates crazily in an attempt to boost the Chinese economy and harvest China's wealth. As a result, China's stock market fell flat, real estate funds were transferred, and in the end, the US dollar received nothing. Especially 18 years ago, Huawei returned to the #1 position in the world, which represented that a hole was opened in the technological hegemony of the beautiful country. This is fatal to the entire dollar system. Along with various problems, the global oil settlement system began to change, and the dominance of the US dollar was in danger. Similar to the low level of the US dollar, either you will always be the hegemon or you will die. There is no such thing as taking a step back and still being nourished. In order to maintain its financial hegemony, the US dollar began to stir up troubles and arbitrarily impacted China's financial system. It can be said that I was crazy at that time. Impacting the foreign exchange market, pumping up crude oil, and investing heavily in and out of A shares. They simply treated A shares as their back garden. Unfortunately, these are of no use. Guyu didn't know exactly what happened. Anyway, she only knew that the US dollar jumped over the wall 8 years ago and moved out the gold system that had long been dusted in an attempt to return to its low position as the world's hegemon. There is a lot of gold in China, but it is mainly among the private sector and there is not enough official gold. At that time, in a very short period of time, Huaxia finance almost suffered a devastating blow. As for how to attack, she still couldn't understand it with her current level of knowledge. I only know that there were several meetings in the village, and then, Li Wanhe and his grandfather opened his treasure house, which contained 1,800 tons of gold. That was because she was still young. Anyway, she could see her father flattering Li Wan and his grandfather. He kept touting him as a god. He had foreseen the risks in advance and hoarded gold in large quantities just to deal a fatal blow to the US dollar. Anyway, since that incident, the US dollar has become a joint currency. Li Wan and his grandfather rarely mentioned this matter. Recently I heard that he started hoarding gold again. Guyu was not familiar with Li Wanhe, and the main reason was Jiangshu. After all, Jiangshu is the light of the courtyard and Li Wanhe's grandson. Li Wanhe will definitely look after his grandson and doesn't like Guyu very much. Her grades are average, her appearance can only be described as quite cute, her appearance and figure are above average, and she is incomparable to her sister Gu Man. Li Wanhe likes Gu Man more and wants Gu Man to be his granddaughter-in-law. Guyu, aren't you at school today? Why did you come back? Zhou Yifang asked. Guyu hurriedly said, Grandpa Zhou, I have no classes in the morning. Is my dad back? I have something to do with him. I'm back, but I've only been back for a while. You go and have a look at home. Okay. She walked to the door, passed biometrics, and got in without incident. There was a special car waiting behind the door. After getting in the car, it took only a minute to arrive at the door of the house. What surprised her was that many people came to the house. Her mother and aunt were not there, and there was only a woman present, whom she also knew. She was Jomo's mother. One of the middle-aged handsome guys saw her coming back, and immediately walked out with a smile and said, Guyu, you came just in time, help me see the deck of cards in my hands and your father's, who is bigger, we have a lifelong friendship, you can't harm me, can you? Guyu. She and Uncle Lu Hansheng had indeed a lifelong friendship. She was only 9 years old at the time and watched helplessly as a car exploded in front of her. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 388. Li Yuan likes Guyu very much because he thinks Guyu is a little lucky star. His academic performance didn't matter. It was the closest he had come to death, and Lu Muibai's time was incomparable. But the real Li Yuan did die that time. People on the internet have been mourning him continuously for half a month, and it can't be justified even if he doesn't die. Now Zhang Yuling is the president of Qingtian Group, accounting for 6% of the equity of Qingtian Group. Over the years, Qingtian Group has long begun to split up and hide itself bit by bit. Of course, there were also many exchanges of interests. The current situation is that the Chinese currency has depreciated, and a monthly salary of less than 10,000 is equivalent to a monthly salary of 3,000 20 years ago. After the currency devalued, it naturally resolved the real estate boom decades ago. 20 years ago, a monthly mortgage of RMB 6,000 could suffocate a family to death, and 2 ordinary people's wages had to go to the mortgage. Now, with the same job, although the mortgage is still being repaid, it is no longer the family's largest expense. 20 years ago, this financial game was almost unplayable, but now, due to the influx of international personnel into China, this game is about to advance to the second level. That is, the Chinese natives began to work as renters, renting the houses they had built 20 or 30 years ago to international friends, and then went to the Nanshan Group to buy a new community and enjoy the ultimate service. The average house price of Nanshan Group now is more than 80,000 yuan per square meter. Otherwise, no matter how fast it develops, it will not be able to reach the scale of hundreds of billions. Currency is worthless. In recent years, currencies around the world have been depreciating, but none of them can compare to the Chinese currency. The depreciation itself had a huge impact on currency credit, but Li Yuan led a large number of companies to support the currency credit. After all, having a strong internal circulation is the basic guarantee. The software that was active 20 years ago is almost all dead this year. Only some old antiques are still using WeChat. What are you talking about? The after-sales service is rubbish, and the product prices are more expensive than those in physical stores. They are frantically cutting leaks for the stock price, and are killing themselves bit by bit. What kind of fight is it? It doesn't care about liars, it doesn't care about anchors selling dog meat, it doesn't care about the malicious smearing of colonists, and it even takes money to promote it. It became obscene 14 years ago and relied on foreign TK to survive for 2 years. Years later, the entire system eventually collapsed. Li Yuan has never initiated any business competition. They have failed and have nothing to do with Li Yuan. Bixen doesn't make much money, just over 10 billion a year, but it has become the #1 software in the world. But the dozens of luxury products hatched with the help of Bixen can earn almost 100 billion a year. Equivalent to 30 billion 20 years ago. Companies relying on Bixen now provide at least 50 million jobs worldwide. In addition, its own large-scale entertainment product creation has provided more than 10 million jobs, and overall it is the company that can provide the most jobs in the world. Not even Nanshan Group. Over the years, Nanshan Group has been expanding, but it has only provided 20 million jobs. Li Yuan called Gu Yu and insisted on letting Gu Yu judge the cards between him and Gu Dongsheng, who was the weaker player. Gu Yu came over and took a look. Uncle Lu, you are 23,788, you don't have a cow. Huh? No cow? I thought it was a cow 8, then I believe in our Gu Yus, haha, I lose. I'll pay for it. After Li Yuan finished speaking, he was ready to pay out cash. As a result, he said awkwardly, haha, the cash is gone. Gambling is not suitable for transferring money. I owe it first. 800 yuan, right? Let Gu Yu go to Jiangsu to ask for it? Aren't you two from the same school? At this point, Gu Yu immediately felt aggrieved, squatted next to Li Yuan, and said, Uncle Lu, Jiangsu bullied me. As soon as these words came out, Gu Dongshen's face lit up. He had made good plans at the beginning and planned to introduce his eldest daughter Gu Man to Jiangsu, but as the two grew up, they were completely indifferent to each other. He almost thought that he had no chance to make Jiangsu his son-in-law. Li Yuan's face darkened. What did that little bastard do? He deliberately made me fail the exam. He asked me to get 16 points in modern economics and 8 points in discrete mathematics. He also called out my identity in the world economics class, and then made the whole class laugh at me. Just one sentence made Li Yuan explode. This kid needs to be dealt with. Just wait. When he finishes class, I will call him back immediately and teach him a lesson in front of you. At this time, Gu Dongsheng spoke, Hans Hung, it's just a fight between children, it's not that serious. Jiangsu probably also wants to put some pressure on Yu, lest she doesn't study seriously, and what will happen if adults intervene? Besides, don't we have anything else to talk about later? When Gu Yu heard this, she clasped her little hands and looked quite aggrieved. However, she didn't dare to speak. She felt she was wronged and she must not be willful in front of her parents. This was the rule her family had taught her since she was a child. She was very afraid of Gu Dongsheng. Li Yuan said helplessly, it still needs to be dealt with, otherwise that kid will be lawless. You guys talk about the matter first, and I will come back later. After saying that, he took Guyu and left. Guyu actually never quite knew what Uncle Lu did. When the accident happened, she was still young, didn't watch the news much, and wasn't even allowed to use the internet at home. Anyway, from the time she could remember, this man's name was Lu Hansheng, the father of Zhang Shu, Li Jingcheng, and Lu Ling. Why do 3 children have 3 last names? You can tell just by looking at Aunt Zhang. Aunt Zhang is such a beautiful woman and has such a big career. How can ordinary men have confidence around her? Is it normal to get divorced several times? Walking on the road in the village, Guyu whispered, "Uncle Lu, can you take care of Jiangshu?" Jiangshu seemed to have never been afraid of this father. Maybe it was because of his stepfather, who didn't seem to have any authority. Li Yuan said seriously, "How could I not control it? I whipped him so hard when I was a child. He cried and screamed while apologizing to me." Really? It's hard to imagine what it would be like for Jiangshu to scream and be whipped. Didn't he act aloof all day long? It's true. He was very naughty when he was a child. I don't know what happened. But when he grew up, he suddenly became aloof. In fact, in my opinion, he was definitely faking it. After a beating, his true colors were revealed. Guyu. Let's go home first. I'll go to his grandma to ask for the family treasure. When he comes back, we'll start fighting. Li Yuanzhen was worried that he couldn't find an excuse to beat Jiangshu. This guy Jiangshu has been teasing him for being a coward all day long. He has long wanted to hit someone. He really didn't understand Jiangshu's personality change. She was so cute and lively when she was little, but she looks annoying when she grows up. Li Jingcheng was quiet when he was a child. He always felt that Li Jingcheng had no personality, but he became lively when he grew up, just like Jiangshu when he was a child. Children are such cunning creatures. Guyu smiled and said, "Can I record the video later? I want to put the video in school." "Ha ha ha, no problem at all, but remember to mosaic uncle." "Why?" "Otherwise your Aunt Zhang will be angry. Your uncle and I have only relied on my face to marry a rich woman in my life. If word of my great beauty spreads, and the beauties on the internet fall in love with me and want to confess to me, your Aunt Zhang will be jealous." Zhang Yuling, who is almost 50 years old, is getting more and more anxious about his appearance. Although Li Yuan was joking, it could actually happen. But the mosaic was purely because he didn't want people to know that he was still alive. The news that he was still alive could not be hidden from those who wanted to know, but ordinary people had no idea at all. Guyu nodded, "Uncle Lu is indeed so handsome. I have always felt that Jiangshu is your biological son." "Ha ha ha, everyone says that." Being praised by the little beauty made me feel very comfortable. Guyu continued, "But I feel that Zhou Mo looks more like you." Li Yuan smiled again, "They are all handsome guys. Handsome guys are all the same." "Then do you know who Zhou Mo's father is?" "I've never heard of it." "Aunt Zhou has been single for many years." Li Yuan. "She is single, and she was so tired last night." "Well, I came to the village relatively late, so I don't know much about it, and I don't dare to ask." "Why?" "I feel like you can talk about anything. If I ask, what do your Aunt Zhang think? Do you think that I think she is old and want to hook up with other rich women? Alas, I am nothing but handsome. If I piss off your Aunt Zhang, I will kill you tomorrow. You have to drink from the northwest wind." "Guyu, but my dad and the others seem to respect you very much." "Is it me they respect? It's your Aunt Jiang's money." "Oh." Guyu seemed to understand. After arriving at home, Li Yuan arranged fruits for Guyu and asked her to sit on the sofa for a while. After he sent a message to Jiangshu, he came over to chat with Guyu. Mainly they talked about what happened at school, such as how they were bullied by Zhang Shu. As he listened, Li Yuan noticed something was wrong. Zhang Shu obviously did it on purpose. A 24-year-old person, deliberately doing this kind of thing? Is this interesting? After a while, Zhou Wan came back. Zhou Wan is almost 70 years old and can't feel steady anymore. The reason is naturally that there are more than a dozen eldest grandsons and a dozen eldest granddaughters who are busy every day. Some have birthdays, some are in college, some are in love. Li Yuan was stingy with his children and would not give him any money, so she had to give him secretly. Ever since Li Wanhe's gold was taken away, the old couple had little money. They relied on gifts from Zhang Yuling or people in the village during holidays. Everyone knows that Li Yuan is stingy, so those gifts will contain a lot of cash. Anyway, Li Yuan is inexplicable. Since 9 years ago, he has not spent a penny. If he really runs out of money, he will borrow it from the villagers. After borrowing it, he will take advantage of the Chinese New Year to deduct the New Year's money from the children and go door to door. Still, it's really embarrassing for the world's richest man to do what he does. Hello, Grandma Jo. Guyu is here? How are you doing at school lately? Where is your sister? You haven't gone home during the summer vacation. What have you been doing lately? Zhou Wan, like Li Wanhe, thinks Gu Man is really nice, beautiful, and tall. Guyu is much shorter, only 163, and her appearance is not outstanding. She looks like a child on weekdays. Gu Man is so mature. I don't know, my sister seems to have some kind of project. After hearing this, Zhou Wan fell in love with Gu Man even more. She had already started a business in her junior year, so Zhang Shu was a perfect match. As for Li Jingcheng, he got married last year to Yao Shanshan, who just turned 20. Yao Shanshan is also a junior in college. Li Yuan didn't want his mother to continue talking. Guyu would definitely be able to hear that kind of partiality that was visible to the naked eye. So he quickly said, "Mom, where is our feather duster? Give it to me to use." Zhou Wan asked, "What do you want to do?" "That kid Zhang Shu is messing around, I'm going to educate him." "Huh? If Zhang Shu keeps messing up again, will you be able to do it?" "Why did I mess up? Zhou Wan originally wanted to ask Li Yuan something, but when she saw Guyu here, she was too shy to ask. She went to Zhangzhou yesterday. Li Jingcheng worked there. She was a junior civil servant who was just admitted last year. However, she was invited to have a meal by Wen Yuxian. When she saw a child from Wen Yuxian's family who was in college and a high school student, she sensed something was wrong. She is really experienced in finding children. Whenever you see Li Yuan getting close to you, and you don't know whose father the child is, you are absolutely right to think of Li Yuan. If Wen Yuxian's side was true, the old couple would owe a lot, because although Wen Yuxian had come to the village often over the years, no one had thought about anything else. After all, how could it be possible for a person like Wen Yuxian with extremely strong abilities and knowing what kind of virtue Li Yuan is? Moreover, Wen Yuxian's children are not studying in the village, which does not fit Li Yuan's character. She even dared to bring Guo Meng's children to the village, so there was no reason to leave Wen Yuxian alone. Forget it, it's just on the bedside table in my room. You should think about it yourself and don't really hit the person, otherwise Yi Ling will be angry when he comes back. In the past, Zhang Yuling liked Li Jingcheng more because Li Jingcheng was honest and obedient and was particularly easy to lead. On the contrary, he didn't have much patience for the naughty and mischievous Zhang Shu. But things have changed now. Ever since Li Jingcheng decided to take the national exam last year, he was beaten up by Zhang Yuling, and then, she didn't like it anymore. Zhou Wan quietly went upstairs and found a few strands of Li Yuan's hair in Li Yuan's bedroom. This time I went to Zhangzhou and stayed at Wen Yuxian's house for a day. It was not that I gained nothing. I got at least 2 children's hair. She was going to take a test secretly. She actually didn't hope it was true, otherwise she wouldn't know how to compensate for it for more than 10 years. Li Yuan went to his parents' bedroom to get the treasure, put it on the sofa, and continued chatting with Guyu. Zhou Wan quickly went downstairs and left. Li Yuan thought this was a good thing. At least Zhou Wan had been in good health over the years. According to Li Wan, if you don't know how many grandchildren you have, they won't be able to close their eyes even after they die. You are simply a fool. The couple set their first goal 20 years ago, which was to find out how many grandchildren they had. The second goal is to see all the grandchildren start families. The third goal is to save some money for each child. As a result, none of the goals have been achieved so far. All the gold saved was taken out and flowed into the market. I originally thought that the first goal would be accomplished when Li Yuan exposed Cao Yuan a few years ago, but now there is another problem. As for the second goal, it's early. Xu Yanlin's child is only 8 years old. Anna Shen's child is only 10 years old at the youngest. Qin Si's children are even more terrifying, the youngest is only 5 years old. 5 years ago, Qin CK was 38 years old. Anyway, the current situation is that the third goal is far away, the second goal has to wait for at least 10 years, and the first goal, who knows when it will be completed. End of chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 389. Zhang Shu came back after class. When he saw Guyu sitting in his living room and glanced at the feather duster on the table, he knew that Guyu must have complained. He sat down angrily and said to Guyu, "What else can you do besides complaining?" Guyu said, "Then what else can you do besides finding trouble with me? If you have that time, can't you just do your academic research honestly? I'm just a fool. I didn't even want to go to Zhangzhou University to study. It's my home. I'm forced to go, do I have any choice? Don't you still know about this matter? Jiangshu, it's because I understand that I want you to study hard. Oh, you can explain this to Uncle Lu later. He will be back soon. You." Jiangshu's face looked ugly. He can ignore anyone now, but Li Yuan is his lifelong idol. When I was a child, I only thought that my father was a very good friend. I didn't dare to tell others about many things that happened during my youth, but I only dared to tell my father. When he grew up, he was immersed in learning, and his understanding of the world gradually became complete. Later, he went to university and graduate school until he completed his doctoral project. Now, his understanding of the entire world has been approaching perfection. The more he does this, the more he can understand the greatness of his father. He has done many things that ordinary people cannot do. The biggest test of those things is actually yourself. It's not that the things his father did were difficult, but that he was still willing to do them even though he knew he would lose money. This is anti-human thinking. Nanshan Group is losing money. Even though the scale of Nanshan Group is over RMB 100 billion, its debt is actually close to RMB 10 trillion, and its annual profit is less than RMB 100 billion. It can only be said that it looks relatively benign. This is the performance in recent years, and it has been losing money before. Even so, without considering the interest on the loans, it would take 100 years to replace the debt of 10 trillion yuan. But Nanshan Group is one of the greatest companies in the world. No one dares to touch Nanshan Group, because whoever touches Nanshan Group will find jobs for 20 million people. Nanshan Group is different from Bixin. Most of the positions provided by Bixin are indirectly provided, and there is also a certain degree of substitutability in Bixin. Who dares to replace Nanshan Group? Who has the strength to replace such a big plate? Even if the Nanshan group is given to others, others will not dare to take it because no one dares to operate like his father. More than 10 years ago, Jiangshu was still young. However, in recent years, he has completed the past history, especially economic related. 18 years ago, big problems arose in the internal circulation of the economy, and a large number of gaps suddenly broke out. Domestic consumption was sluggish, almost dragging the economy into an abyss. It was Bixen who stood up, Qinghe County who stood up, and Nanshan Group who stood up. With the support of Lakian Capital and Qingtian Capital, some consumer confidence has been rebuilt. That's a very difficult thing, and it doesn't mean what you say. That was his father's plan 5 years in advance, paying hundreds of billions to gain everyone's trust in Nanshan Group, and trust in Qinghe County. Mountains are not that easy to build. Without enough foundation, they cannot bear much weight. If internal consumption had not been boosted that time, China would not be what it is now, and there is a high probability that it would collapse along with the US dollar. It is precisely because Qingtian Group and Nanshan Group dare to give up profits and provide employees with sufficient protection that tens of millions of people have the capital to consume. It is precisely because Bixen Mall is willing to give profits to customers and manufacturers, and is willing to lose money but also provide high-quality after-sales service, that we can make everyone believe in the quality of Bixen Mall's goods and not feel like they are cutting leaks, even if the economy is sluggish. They are still willing to come here to spend money. Similarly, it is precisely because Nanshan Group has provided guaranteed employment to hundreds of thousands of migrant workers and provided job opportunities to millions of ordinary people that families have been able to stabilize. It is precisely because of these that some high-quality domestic companies can survive. This is a system, a very large economic system. 18 years ago, Qingtian Group and Nanshan Group had just over 2 million employees combined. Now, the two groups combined have 60 million employees worldwide and indirectly provide 200 million jobs. These 60 million employees affect at least 40 million families and involve more than 200 million people. The jobs provided indirectly touch the lives of more than 700 million people. Without his father's anti-humanity thinking, the two groups would not exist today. He looked through all his father's experiences and found that his father was simply a god. That guy who usually has no desires and needs, a man who doesn't even have $100 in his pocket, gave up at least 5 trillion worth of wealth. It was still 5 trillion 18 years ago. Even now, I don't even know how terrifying that amount of money is. Before that guy's death, the media gave him a net worth of 200 billion. He didn't know how those media had the nerve to write that figure. Not worthy of his status at all. And such a character has not been written into the textbooks. Recently, he was completing his last bit of knowledge about the world, and wanted to understand where his father's realm was. It's just that he has no idea for the time being. He wants to wait for an opportunity to communicate with his father. Over the years, my father rarely communicated with me. Maybe it's because he's grown up and has his own understanding of the world, and he doesn't want to impose his ideas on himself. After all, everyone has different perceptions. He asked, "When will my father come back?" Guyu smiled and said, "What? Are you crazy about being beaten? Jiangshu, I didn't expect you to be so perverted." As soon as Guyu finished speaking, Jiangshu grabbed her arm. Guyu stopped laughing immediately and even panicked. What are you going to do?" "I'm a pervert, I just want to be beaten. But now that my dad is not back, I have to beat you first and collect some interest." "You dare? Haha, is there anything in the world that I dare not do?" "You." The next second, Guyu was pulled to his room by Jiangshu. Guyu was completely stunned and shivered after being pulled in. Jiangshu randomly found some books, placed them in front of her, and asked her to sit on the chair in front of the desk. "Guyu, let me tell you, Your 16 points and 8 points have nothing to do with me. I was just a little more strict when correcting the paper. Those scores are your real scores. You got the right answer in discrete mathematics with a multiple choice question. Tell me, is this normal? You didn't study seriously at all. I just don't understand. What you said is too profound. Why can others understand it? Because, everyone else has a score of over 700 points, but I am just a little trash with a score of over 500 points. It has nothing to do with your scores. Your midterm exam scores show that you are a mentally disturbed person. You scored more than 500 points. Is there something wrong with your brain? You couldn't answer. Indeed, she shouldn't have gotten such a low score. I'm only a freshman now, so it's not that difficult to learn. It's just that she is more afraid of Jiangshu. Jiangshu tortured her for 3 months before the college entrance examination, and she got cold feet when she saw Jiangshu. This guy is merciless and forceful. If you don't know how to do it, you have to learn hard. If you can't do it well, he will start to be sarcastic. He can go without using the same cold words for half a month. So after college, her brain was very repulsive to Zhang Shudai's 2 courses and she couldn't understand a single word. She now expected Uncle Lu Hansheng to come back quickly and beat Zhang Shu up. Unfortunately, she was destined not to wait today. Now that I have free time, just learn from me. If you don't know anything, ask me. The only unoccupied villa in the village is used as a place for meetings or banquets. After all, there is no furniture here, and there is no distinction between bedrooms and studies. There is a lot of space that can be used. Whose family holds a wedding banquet and can accommodate the whole village and set up dozens or 20 tables inside. But today it is being used as a conference room. I was just playing at Gu Dongshen's house before. Naturally the purpose was to wait for someone. When Yuxian, Guomeng just came here. 57-year-old Yu is still on the road. After drinking tea, chatting, and waiting for another 10 minutes, Yu finally arrived. Yu has not changed so obviously from 18 years ago. After all, now that he has money and power, his whole mentality must be different. He greeted everyone with a smile, then came to Li Yuan, handed over the things he was carrying, and said, "The Hishan jade I went shopping for during this period of time is all high quality, and the boss deserves it these things." Li Yuan smiled and accepted it. "I have no rights now, so I won't reimburse you. You have to pay for it yourself in the future." Haha, it's right to spend money on the boss. If I die in the future, I will tell my son about the boss's hobby and let him continue to give it to you. When Yu, who is in his 50s, faces Li Yuan, who is in his 40s, he is still the same as before. We have been together for 25 years. Everyone present, including Wen Yuxian, was very envious, because the whole world knew that Li Yuan did not accept gifts from others, only those from Yu. Who here doesn't want to give Li Yuan some gifts? She had no choice but to give Li Yuan 2 children. Meeting. Li Yuan said something, and the guys immediately went to sit down. Gu Dongsheng took the document and said, "First, the main content of this meeting is the official launch of the 3rd stage of overseas expansion. In the next 10 years, we..." Li Yuan was listening nearby. He had already formulated the general direction 18 years ago. Now others know the situation better than him. After all, he rarely gets started on work. He is more of a mascot and the principal and bottom line of the entire team. If he were gone, Gu Dongsheng would definitely not continue to adhere to the current route. He would definitely use Nanshan Group to make more money. To put it bluntly, many things can continue because of his existence. If he is gone, who doesn't want more money in his hands? Who doesn't want to have more rights in their hands? Why bother to help others when there is no benefit at all? Human nature is selfish. Only Li Yuan can make plans against human nature, Others cannot. The global plan has been launched a long time ago, and the results are obvious. Including cultural output and language output. Of course, the most is to acquire foreign land. Over the years, Li Yuan has forgotten whether the amount of land in their hands is in the order of 100 million or 1 billion. It should be more than 1 billion acres. Because he had seen the data from 4 years ago, which was 700 million acres, equivalent to half of the total farmland in China. They just use the money they have in their hands to open up their own market. Global technology has reached a bottleneck. There may not be a big breakthrough in another 20 years. We have to survive in these 20 years, right? They buy other people's land in large quantities and give others the money they need. Once they have land, they can support their own seed companies, fertilizer companies, agricultural machinery companies, and logistics companies. It's nothing more than not making much money, and even losing money occasionally. But if you make a lot of money in your own system, you won't be afraid even if you lose money. In this system, there are currently at least 300 billion in funds in operation, and losses of more than 10 to 20 trillion are not noticeable. This is a very healthy ecology. Moreover, some are losing money, while others are making money, and the losses have not continued to expand. This meeting lasted for more than 4 hours, so it was conceivable that by the time the meeting ended, it was already 2 o'clock in the afternoon. While eating, Gu Dongsheng sat over and said, "What did you say to our Guyu? She kept yelling that you owed her something." Li Yuan. It seems that I do owe you. Damn it, I just went to a meeting with you. I delayed something big. Give me your cell phone and I'll have a call with Guyu. Li Yuan can get the numbers of everyone in the village, but Gu Dongsheng and the others don't let their children know his phone number, for fear that those children will harass Li Yuan. After Li Yuan called Guyu, he said, "Guyu, it's me, Uncle Lu. I'm really sorry this time." Guyu cried directly on the phone. "Uncle Lu, Jiangshu forced me." "Huh? How dare that bastard do such a thing? I'll grab him back now and break his legs." Guyu over there stopped crying immediately. "Did you really break your leg? It's necessary, otherwise how can I be worthy of you?" "Well, actually there's no need to break his legs, just whip him. Isn't that giving him too much advantage? I'm almost ready to call the police." "Ah. No, 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 he just forced me to study. There is no need to call the police, it's just that I really don't want to be in this school anymore. Uncle Lu, can you help me transfer to another school? I want to go to Sister Fanch's school." Zhou Fanch's college entrance examination results were not particularly outstanding, and Li Yuan and Zhou Ranran didn't give her any special privileges, so she ended up going to Magic City Finance. Moreover, when Zhou Fanchu was 18 years old, he was already engaged. The person he was engaged to was Hong Ruoding, the great-grandson of Hong Dadu, the 13th Taibao at that time. The young couple stayed in the Magic City for 3 years and only came back during the winter and summer vacations. "Don't go back to the village." "Well, I may not be able to help. I'm not as capable as your dad." "Why don't you talk to your dad?" "It would be great if my dad would agree. I really have no dignity at all in the class, and Jiangshu doesn't give me any face." "Well, it's actually very simple. If he doesn't give you face, just don't give him face. You go and expose his shortcomings. If you don't know his dirty information, I can give it to you." "I know it." "That's a lot." "Guyu." "Forget it, with his perfect image, he must be very fragile mentally. It would be bad if I embarrass him." It's okay. Anyway, I have been thick-skinned since I was a child, so I will suffer a little if I suffer." Li Yuan immediately said, "This is too aggrieved for you, no way. We must defeat the evil Jiangshu. You have told me, I must be responsible for this matter to the end." "No, no, no, that, Uncle Lu, Just pretend I didn't say it. I am very good at school, really very good. I will fail first. The new book I stealed other people's tickets to rebirth is shamelessly requested to be read later, because tomorrow's follow-up reading is very important. Please give me a few minutes to read through it, and just turn to the latest chapter. There are only a few tens of thousands of words in total. End of chapter. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 390. After Guyu hung up the phone, he immediately sent a message to Jiangshu. Let me tell you, Uncle Lu just told me a lot of dirty stuff about you. If you dare to target me again, I will reveal all your dirty stuff and discredit you in the school. As a result, Jiangshu's response to her was just 2 words, haha. You think I don't dare? Guyu refused to accept it. Jiangshu, don't think so, you just don't dare. Guyu. She's going crazy. Jiangshu just bullies honest people. She wanted to save some dignity for Jiangshu, but Jiangshu deliberately provoked her. When she went to the classroom in the afternoon, she found that many people looked at her differently. The daughter of the richest man. Although Zhangzhou University Qinghe campus has high scores, there are still many top second-generation students from around the world who can come in. After all, having money means extraordinary educational resources. As for Guyu's identity, he is basically a coveted existence among the rich second generation around the world. You will understand it if you look at how many companies Nanshan Group has supported. Dozens of those companies are now listed, and the one with the highest market value has even exceeded 5 trillion. There are many wealthy people in the school, with family assets ranging from billions to tens of billions, and there are even some families with assets exceeding 100 billion. But compared with the son-in-law of a richest man, those net worths are simply not worth it. Guyu is not particularly good-looking. He can only be described as having an above-average appearance and a medium height. Normally, those second-generation students would not take a second look. After all, there are too many outstanding girls in the school. But now, the last row where Guyu usually sits is overcrowded. Some people even most likely checked some class form information and knew that she had a birthday in 2 days. When chatting with her, they deliberately cited it. She was a little confused and didn't know how to refuse without hurting other people's self-esteem. Although she has not enjoyed a very wealthy life, she has been following Uncle Lu since she was a child, and her spiritual life is very rich. Uncle Lu took her to play whatever she wanted to play. Moreover, Uncle Lu had taught her since she was a child not to ask for anything from others at any time, and not to be tempted by any gifts from others. Strangers give gifts because they have needs. Only gifts given to close relatives come from the heart. She was simple-minded and didn't want to embarrass others by refusing directly, so she could only respond awkwardly. Until the end of get out of class, she was ready to go back to the dormitory, with a bunch of people following her. It wasn't until she entered the girls' dormitory that she was quiet for a while, but her friend application exploded again. Jiangshu, it's all your fault. Now I'm being pestered by a lot of people. I'm going to be bored to death. If you find fault with me, just find fault with me. Why do you have to talk about my dad? My dad doesn't give me any money. As a result, Jiangshu quickly sent a laughing expression. An angry Guyu replied, I want to blow your head off. She had no choice but to apply through those friends to avoid being embarrassed in class tomorrow. What if someone asks, I added you as a friend, why did you fail? Do you hate me? She didn't know how to answer. It's normal to be thick-skinned. Jiangshu is very thick-skinned anyway, and many people in the compound are extremely thick-skinned. The next day, when I went to the classroom again, it was even more exaggerated than yesterday. More than a dozen breakfast items were charged. Even if she is a pig, she can't eat that much. The only thing that was fortunate was that Jiangshu didn't have a class in the morning, otherwise he would have made excuses to scold her. University courses are relatively scattered, but Jiangshu teaches a lot of classes, so he can't avoid them. Jiangshu has class in the afternoon. She didn't eat any breakfast and felt a little distressed. Because it's wasteful. This point will be criticized by Uncle Lu in the compound. Even her roommate, who usually didn't have a good relationship with her, suddenly became much more attentive now, saying that she would not be allowed to clean the dormitory, and would even help her with laundry and shopping. She really wants to transfer to another school. The first class in the afternoon was Akio's discrete mathematics. When she arrived in the classroom, she found that the place where she usually sat was filled with snacks. She had no choice but to run to the front and sit down. After a while, Jiangshu came. She lowered her head, almost burying it in the textbook. Jiangshu saw it, but he deliberately glanced at the classroom and suddenly said, "Whose are those snacks?" "Guyu." "Why are you holding a bunch of snacks in front of your face?" Guyu was so embarrassed that she couldn't raise her head. She was not in the last row. Jiangshu walked towards the last row. When he found that there was no one behind the snacks, he said, "Guyu is absent from work today. When she comes back from the dormitory, I will tell her that I have deducted her usual points." This made Guyu unable to continue being an ostrich. He quickly stood up and said, "Teacher Jiang, I am not absent from class." Jiangshu let out a sigh and said, "Yes, I know you can sit in the front row today. It seems that you also know that it is very embarrassing to get 8 points on the test. There are still 8 classes of discrete mathematics. If you work hard, you can still improve your grades." The next class was pure torment for Guyu. Jiangshu kept staring at her. When she was distracted for a moment, Jiangshu called her to answer the question. It was a shame to patronize a class. After class, she ran out of the classroom quickly, with a group of people following behind her. Jiangshu was stopped by several classmates to ask some questions, so he left a little late. "I saw a group of people chasing Guyu with my own eyes." He frowned. At this moment, a girl suddenly asked, "Teacher Jiang, do you have a girlfriend?" "Huh? Not yet." "What type of girls does Teacher Jiang like?" Jiangshu frowned and said, "This is a classroom. I can only answer study questions. But dating is not prohibited in the university. You see, many boys in the class are pursuing Guyu. They bring her breakfast and snacks every day. Jiangshu, it is not a wise choice to do something that you know will have no results. Is Teacher Jiang implying that we have no chance?" "Jiangshu. What a chance. This female student is indeed very beautiful, but he doesn't even like Gu Man. Gu Man's figure and appearance were comparable to those in the village except Lisaking, but everything else was a bit inferior. Of course, it could also be someone else who is either much younger than him or his sister. Anyway, no brother would think his sister is pretty. If so, then there is a high probability that you will enter orthopedics. Everyone has their own preferences for radish and cabbage. Anyway, some people think Zhou Fanchu is a goddess, but he only thinks Zhou Fanchu is a tsundere. Some people also say that Chen Dai has outstanding temperament, but he only knows that Chen Dai is lazy as hell. Song Ju is a madman. He also has a younger sister, Li Ling, who is crazier than Song Ju." The girl continued, "But people's hearts will always change. For example, Guyu. I feel that she will definitely not be able to withstand such an offensive. Maybe within a few days, she will accept a boy's confession." The girl didn't notice Jiangshu's expression changed and said to herself, "I also hope Teacher Jiang can give me a chance. I have always admired Teacher Jiang. Now that we are both college students, theoretically you are also my senior. I hope to have more time to communicate with seniors in the future." Jiangshu stood up directly and said, "No need, you have already learned very well. What I can teach is very limited." After saying that, He walked directly outside the classroom. It's impossible for him to fall in love with someone he doesn't know well. I walked around the campus for a while and was asked for my contact information several times for no apparent reason. But his brows remained furrowed. Until Guyu's figure appeared in front of him. But at this time, Guyu was holding several things in his hand. He strode over, stopped in front of Guyu, and said angrily, "Guyu, you really disgrace our village. Do you really want the gift given by others? What are those things in Guyu's hands? They are definitely not her own, nor are they what she likes. How can I not know what she likes?" Guyu lowered her head and said, "What can I do? People said it was handmade by myself, but I said no, so they forced it on me. I asked for money, but he said he didn't spend any money. Who gave it? Which major? Which class? It seems he is from Economic Management Class 3, I don't know his name." Zhang Shu stretched out his hand and said, "Give me the things. Don't ask for other people's things in the future." Oh. Guyu handed it over honestly. But when he looked up, he found that Zhang Shu's face looked ugly. She was startled. Zhang Shu was angry. But then I thought about it, is he angry? Why are you angry? A gift in your own hand? The next second, she retracted her hand. "No, someone else gave it to me. I can't give it to you. I gave it to you. How should I answer if someone asks? Just tell him it's here and ask him to come and get it from me. That won't work either. People will think I don't respect him. After all, this gift was made by hand with a lot of effort." Zhang Shu scolded directly, "It's pure handicrafts. It's just a small toy that costs 20 yuan a piece on the street. Do you believe what others say? Guyu, how is that possible? Look here, there are still many traces of handwork. If it wasn't handwork, how could there be flaws? Can't it be that someone just bought a defective product? Bring it over quickly, don't make me angry." Guyu said stubbornly, "If I get angry, I'll get angry. I won't give it to you." After saying that, she hugged the things directly to her chest and ran towards the distance. In fact, her heartbeat was very fast. It was the first time she had a confrontation with Zhang Shu, and it was also the first time she was not rendered speechless by Zhang Shu. When she returned to the dormitory, she immediately sent a heartwarming message to Li Yuan. There is no guarantee when this news will be returned, because Li Yuan rarely reads it. But she was lucky today, Li Yuan returned soon. "What's going on? Zhang Shu is angry." "Yes, Uncle Lu. I was forcefully given a gift today, and he seemed very angry when he saw it. I know it's wrong to accept gifts from others, and I didn't want to accept them at first, but they had too many excuses, so I didn't know way to refuse." "Li Yuan, it's okay, it's okay. It's just a small gift, and it's also someone else's heart." "Ah. Didn't you say that when strangers give gifts, they must be asking for something? Ever since my identity was exposed by that bastard Zhang Shu, a lot of people give me things every day, and I can't think of anything in my mind. It's a word for rejection, and it's more stressful than going to school." "Li Yuan, haha, why should you refuse? I can give you a gift, but you have to remember who gave it to me, and then choose one of the people who gave you the gift to be your boyfriend." "Huh? My dad will beat me to death because he won't let me fall in love." "It's okay, it's okay. I'll go talk to your dad and make sure he won't be angry with you because of this. But first, tell me, what kind of boyfriend do you want?" Guyu thought for a while. "Actually, I do want to fall in love. I didn't think about how handsome the other person is. Just be patient with me. After all, sometimes I'm really not that smart. What about the gift that I gave you today? It's very good. His academic performance is very good and he is handsome. But I just don't feel anything for him. Oh, So you appreciate others so much. You study well, I envy those who are better than me. Li Yuan was in the study, smiling as if he had eaten bee poop. He sorted out the chat history between himself and Guyu. For example, I deleted Guyu's comment about not having any feelings for boys giving gifts. In this way, what Guyu said completely changed its meaning. Immediately afterwards, he took a screenshot of the chat history and sent it to Jiangshu. About 5 minutes later, Jiangshu replied. Dad, what's going on? Li Yuan pretended not to know and said, I don't know. Guyu suddenly told me today that she wanted to fall in love and asked me to talk to her father. She also said that she already has a goal. Jiangshu replied very quickly, is there something wrong with Guyu's brain? With the way she is, will anyone like her? It's not because of Uncle Gu. Yes, it's for your Uncle Gu. But it doesn't matter even if it's false love. As long as your Uncle Gu is still here, Guyu won't be wronged. Being able to be falsely romantic for a lifetime, doesn't it mean true love? Li Yuan smiled even happier. This guy Jiangshu must have finally been caught. Otherwise, he could tell himself such nonsense? He had never had this kind of chat since he was 15 years old. After he turned 15, he became extremely cold, uninterested in many things, and too lazy to argue with others. Being able to say those words today shows that he is really anxious. It's good to be anxious. If you are not anxious, you always feel that everything is within your control. In fact, there is not much you can control. If you can't even control the character of a little girl, who can you control in the future? Although Li Jingcheng is slightly worse than Jiangshu, Li Jingcheng has a good personality and can naturally integrate into any environment. He will encounter much fewer difficulties and is not as proud as Jiangshu. Being too proud is essentially arrogance. Dad, do you really want to integrate a new force into the compound? What new force? Uncle Gu's side is already powerful enough. Shouldn't you think about checking and balancing that side? Once Guyu is allowed to marry an outsider, the power of Uncle Gu's side will only become stronger. Maybe one day what you say it doesn't work. Oh, I'm fine. I watched Guyu grow up. As long as she is happy, I can give the entire Nanshan group to her as a dowry. That's it. If your grandma calls me something is wrong, you can also help Guyu at school. After screening, as long as there is no problem with your character, I will definitely support you. End of chapter.